B'Shem Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach. Shiur Torah. Wonderful to be here in Aventura, Florida, at the Breslov Center. We have our series, our Pirkei Avot series. We are up to 145, Baruch Hashem. 145. We're actually starting a new Mishnah tonight. Mishnah Vav Gimel 6:3, chapter 6, Mishnah 3. As we've seen in the last couple of Mishnayot, these Mishnayot in chapter 6 are very long, very extensive, and Baruch Hashem, delicious. Wonderful, wonderful teachings. This Mishnah is no less. We've actually mentioned parts of this Mishnah in several previous shiurim over the last 5 years, but never have gone deep into it like Bezat Hashem we're going to try to do, Bezat Hashem, over this lecture, and Bezat Hashem if necessary tomorrow as well. This Mishnah gives us a better perspective of what it means to have a rabbi. What does it mean to have a friend? Who is really your friend? What's your responsibility to your friend? Who is really your rabbi? What is your responsibility to your rabbi? But also it gives us a little bit of an understanding of, in reality, whether we are honoring the Torah enough, whether we're giving respect to the Torah enough. A spoiler alert, answer is no, among any of us. But some of us have a better chance than others, are closer to it than others, but we'll get to it, Bezat Hashem, we'll get to it. The shiur will be also for Refuah Shlema for Levana bat Sarah, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, Dvora bat Mercedes, Yuda ben Dvora, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, and Debbie bat Rachel. And all of Am Yisrael, Bezat Hashem, will have Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, and Refuat HaGuf. So, interestingly enough, something that doesn't really have much to do with the Mishnah itself, but apparently it does, because it seems like it does. We're going to talk a little bit also about blessings. What is the value of the blessing? What is the not necessarily just the value of you individually blessing, but also individually of not blessing. Not blessing. And Bezat Hashem, B'siyad Dishmai, will connect it to this shiur as well. But we're also going to talk about something very, very important, because it's a breaking news type of information, meaning that if you don't know it today, by the time you realize it, it'll be too late. Now, as we all know, we live in modern-day Mitzrayim. We live in America. Baruch Hashem, we have certain privileges that some of our ancestors did not have. We have the freedom to practice our religion to a certain extent. We have the freedom to speak freely to a certain extent. We have freedom to do business freely to a certain extent. Everything to a certain extent. But nonetheless, we have a lot more freedom than our ancestors had. And Baruch Hashem, we have to bless Hashem and thank Him for allowing us to have such a place to live, even if it's not in our real land, in Eretz Yisrael. But still, nonetheless, this does not give us the permission to become Americans. You know, the fact that we live in America, or some people that live in England, and or some people live in different parts of the world where they have similar, better, more or less freedom like American Jews have, and even in Eretz Yisrael itself, which is, even though it's run by people that were born to Jewish mothers, they're not necessarily practicing Judaism. It's not a religious country. Some statistics say, actually, that Israel is the least religious place in the world. Not the most religious, like it's supposed to. But still, Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of Torah in Eretz Yisrael, and a person should always know that any Torah that you learn outside of Eretz Yisrael is minute in comparison to the Torah that you can learn out in Eretz Yisrael. I remember every time that I went there. Last time I went there a couple of years ago, just for maybe a month or so, and the amount of learning that I was able to get, chidushim, that during just a month of being in Eretz Yisrael, ishtabach shemolad, I think I don't get it in a year. It's just your brain, your neshama works differently over there. But of course, you have to still exert yourself, and you have to find Torah. You can't just think you're going to sit in a living room by yourself and Torah is going to arrive at your door. Also, the types of Talmidei Chachamim that you have in Eretz Yisrael today are in a much, much higher level than you have anywhere else in the world. In previous generations, we had many, many Chachamim all over the world because we were, for the most part, in the exile. But today's, the vast majority of Chachamim in the world are actually in Eretz Yisrael. Still, there are some, Baruch Hashem, that are outside, but still, the majority are there. Plus, the average avrech, or the average rav, from my experience, in Eretz Yisrael, is on a much higher level than the average rav or avrech in the exile. And that's not necessarily an insult to anyone else. This includes me as well. It's just the Torah in Eretz Yisrael is on a different level. But still, it's not considered a Jewish state. Why? Because the people that are running the country, or at least the ones that think they're running the country, and it's not Hashem, are not practicing Judaism. They're not following the Torah. They're doing a lot of things against the Torah. So, they're also included in this statement. Regardless of whether you live in Israel, or you live in America, or anywhere in Europe, or in Asia, or anywhere else in the world, as a Jew, unlike the other nations, you're not allowed, by any stretch of the imagination, to become part of them. You're not allowed to become an American. You're not allowed to become a European. You're not allowed to become a Brit. You're not allowed to become Chinese. You may want to live there. You may want to eat kosher food in that country if it's available. You may want to do business there. You may even have some friends there. It's not a problem. But to think that you're part of that nation already shows that you are far from Da'at Torah. Far from Da'at Torah. Why? Because a Jew is a Jew, regardless of where he is, and he's not allowed to be anything else. Anytime he is anything else, that means that he is going against his Judaism. And that's unfortunately one of the things that has been the self-inflicted wounds that we've been giving to ourselves time and time again, whether it was today in America, all over Europe, or Canada and other places where people want to be part of modern Goy society, or it's right before World War II, when everyone thought that it's a wonderful thing to be part of the Germans, which was that day's America. They were the leading economy, they were the leading army, they were the leading in everything. They even were the leading in what was considered sophisticated and civilized. The way that they handled themselves, people thought, wow, these are such civilized and sophisticated people. They always say thank you. The average person says thank you about everything. They even say thank you to the dog. When Rav Wasserman, Allah Shalom, saw them, he says, you see how they treat the dogs? All of that extra love that they're giving the dogs, eventually you're going to see them use that hate that they have extra left, use it against people. And that's what happened, unfortunately. But the point I'm trying to get to is that a Jew has to always remember that he's a Jew first, everything else second. You may happen to live in America. You may happen to live in England and somewhere in Manchester or somewhere in Africa and somewhere in Singapore, wherever you are. But if your Judaism is not the first thing on your mind when you first wake up, the first thing on your mind throughout your entire day, and the last thing on your mind before you go to sleep, there's something wrong with your life. Now, what does this have to do with the breaking news? Is that if you don't think this way, if you think that you can easily and seamlessly adapt and become an American, or whatever other place you're in, that it's very, very easy for you to sin with some of the critical sins that could literally remove your Olam Haba. You could just take the Olam Haba that was given to you and be given to somebody else. Because you were given a share of the world to come. You were given a share of the world to come, but if you lose it, it has to go somewhere else. Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek le'olam haba. All of Am Yisrael have a share of the world to come. Okay, so what about those that don't have a share of the world to come? The Mishnah continues. There's a bunch of them. There's a whole list. We're going to talk about one of those people that doesn't have a share of the world to come today. Achitofel. He was a huge Talmid Chacham. Had a lot of Torah in his mind. To such an extent that David Melech Mashiach, said, "Oh, you're my rabbi." He wasn't really his rabbi, but we'll learn why. But he has no share of the world to come. So knowledge by itself is not guarantee success. Rabotai Yekarim, when you forget that you're a Jew and you start desiring to become a goy, even if you're still wearing a kippah, even if you're still growing the beard that's for free, even if you put a kisui rosh like the Rambam, even if you're wearing all types of modest clothes that no one can tell anything about you, sometimes not even whether you're a male or female. You're so modest. But you want to do things like the goyim. Like, you want to celebrate Thanksgiving. You want to celebrate Thanksgiving because it's an opportunity to say thank you. As a Jew, Chazaku Baruch, as a Jew, this is a very serious problem. Number one, you're supposed to say thank you practically from the second you wake up, every single second that you're awake, and until the second that you fall asleep. And the only reason you're patur from doing it after you go to sleep is because you're sleeping. That's it. Meaning if you are awake throughout the night, you have to continue saying thank you. So it's not that you're actually patur from the mitzvah, that you don't have to do mitzvah when you're sleeping. It's that you're anus. You can't. You're sleeping. So to say, no, I'm going to have Thanksgiving because that's what they do in America. And if you don't like it, why do you live in America? Some Jewish people tell me. Well, let me tell you a few things. Some people we're going to go first on the halachic aspect of it, and then we're going to go on other things. Both will affect everyone. Now, many people in the last couple of days that have asked me this question of whether we should celebrate Thanksgiving, eat some turkeys. We spoke about it briefly on Sunday, and I explained briefly that if you want to eat turkey, you can eat turkey every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the rest of your life. No one really cares. There's no halakha that forbids you from eating turkey. I think you're going to be a very sleepy person if you eat that much turkey, and probably very fat too, but there's nothing else, there's no asul, there's no like halakha, no turkey. Enjoy, as long as it's kosher, enjoy with stuffing, without stuffing. If you want, I could teach you how to fry it, which is very delicious actually. You put it in a nice, I'm going to teach you after. It's delicious, much more delicious than you put it in the oven. Fryer, you put it with the oil, takes 25 minutes, maximum an hour and a half, depends on the size of the turkey, instead of 6 hours. You want to eat turkey? Enjoy the turkey. But that's not what people are asking. People are asking is, can they eat turkey as part of a holiday? Because they heard that a Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, zchuto tagen aleinu, said it's okay. Now, practically every single person that tells you that has not read what Rav Moshe Feinstein said. Because he didn't say that. That's the best part about it. Meaning that if your rabbi in your Bet Knesset said, no, it's okay, to Rav Moshe Feinstein said, you want to have turkey, he said it's okay. Rav Moshe Feinstein, Gdol Hador, previous generation, he said it's okay. Rav Moshe Feinstein, you can't go against Moshe Rabbeinu, you may have better luck. Go against Moshe Feinstein, Gdol Hador, he said it's okay. The rabbis are saying this. Rabbis are saying, Moshe Feinstein said it's okay. I looked into it. Rav Moshe Feinstein mentioned the halacha 4 times. First in the 1960s, I believe it was 1964 or 67, and then again a couple of times in 1981. In no place, anyone that reads the language will get the actual impression that it's okay. But they will get the impression that something is okay if they don't read the whole thing, which is that it's okay to eat turkey. That it's okay. It's okay to have a meal on the 25th, which happens to be the day of Thanksgiving. It's okay to have a meal. But what's not okay is celebrating Thanksgiving. What's not okay is ever doing it again. Meaning, if you happen to have a turkey meal with a bunch of friends or by yourself, and it happens to be on the same day as Thanksgiving, once in your life, no problem, enjoy. No one cares. But if you're going to do it again next year, now we have a problem. Now you just added the mitzvah to the Torah. You just became a kofar by the entire Torah. Why? You added a mitzvah. You added a mitzvah. Why? If you did it once, then it's not a mitzvah. It's just you happen to have a meal. You happen to have a meal and it happens to be that day and you decide to eat turkey. But if you're doing it because it's Thanksgiving and everybody has off from work and it's Black Friday the next day, a good day to shop if you are suicidal, and all of those, you added this to your life, like Thanksgiving became like another day. It's not a day that you go to Beit Knesset, you don't say Hallel, you're not going to church, hopefully, you're not doing all that, but nonetheless, you added that there is another day in the year that means something. There is something there. There's like a special meal. There's a special something. It has some type of significance. You, my friend, have just added a mitzvah to the Torah, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile. Meaning, it's not only forbidden, absolutely forbidden, for Am Yisrael to do this. It's forbidden for the Goyim. Why? You invented a holiday. You're not allowed to invent holidays. You want to eat turkey once in your life, once every 17 years, or randomly on that day it happens to be, no problem. No one's ever going to talk to you. No one's ever going to question it. But no one does it that way. Why? Everyone has their Thanksgiving thing that they do. They wake up really early in the morning, all psyched up. Everybody's 70 pounds overweight, but they want to play football. All of a sudden, everybody became a football player. They all go to the field at 8 o'clock in the morning so they can play, break half their body, and then appear so they can eat enough turkey to repair the body, and then hopefully they survive the next day. Everybody wants to play football. Why? Because we want to feel like the players we're going to watch while we eat turkey on the big screen TV that's completely not allowed in Judaism, that's in the house. We're going to watch television. It's going to have basketball and football especially, with all of the immodest women of the world dancing on the screen, with a special halftime show of more nakedness. A special halftime show where everyone practically is naked. I think next year they're going to be mamash naked. Right now we're like almost there. It's like see-through. A special halftime show. And everybody gathers around. Come, honey. The biggest zonah in American history is coming to sing for us. Come, bring the kids. Bring the kids. Honey, come. You bring the little innocent kids. Neshamot teorot. They haven't sinned yet. And you make them watch this garbage. You make them watch this woman practically in an underwear, if that much, bichlal. Say, come, honey, come see it. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't that voice beautiful? Who's looking at a voice, bichlal? But we have to eat the turkey. And we have to watch the football game. Rabotai Yekarim, the Torah Akdosha says, and Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav Shalom, says there are multiple reasons that you're not allowed to do this. Number one, you're not allowed to add a mitzvah to the Torah, whether you're a Jew or Gentile. You're not allowed to add a holiday to the Torah. Second reason, for a Jew, bechukoteim lo telechu. If something became a min'ag even, a custom of the goyim, you're not allowed to do it. Now, we're not saying that if they eat cereal, you're not allowed to eat cereal. If they wear ties, you're not allowed to wear ties. No, we're not talking about things like that. We're talking about things that are considered significant. Things like special days, special celebrations. Things that have really no foundation whatsoever, no connection to Am Yisrael whatsoever. Things that are, in many cases, against our Torah. Either way, this is a very serious problem. Once you start adding another day to your calendar as a special day that you're going to gather your friends and family, you just added a chok, a law, to the Judaism, which is against the Torah. So we're not allowed to do such a thing. The third reason is that I believe is something that's as obvious as day, but apparently no one actually studies Gemara or remembers this, is that Thanksgiving, like we said, it's for Goyim. It's not Jews. The Goyim invented it. So Thanksgiving has become an opportunity for all of the Jews that have non-Jewish friends, like their boss and their customers, and maybe their in-laws sometimes, if their wife or husband converted. It's an opportunity to have like peace. It's like it's a universal holiday. Why? We're not talking about JCPenney. We're not talking about the God of Israel. No one came out of Egypt on this day. So what's the problem of having a nice meal together? The problem is that according to the Gemara, Masechet Avodah Zarah, which is the actual halacha in the Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to have a seudah with goyim. You're not allowed. Why? Because if you have a seudah, you have a festive meal with non-Jews, you'll become, the Gemara says, comfortable enough with them where you're going to see there's no problem with my children marrying his children. His daughter's marrying my son's, chas v'shalom, my son's marrying his daughter's. Why? Because once you become comfortable with each other, you befriend each other, and you don't really see much of a difference. Oh, what's the difference between us? I'm God of Israel, you're some other one? Okay, we won't talk about it. Won't talk about it. Live and let live mentality. This is not allowed. Some of this last one I mentioned before, but there's one thing that I don't think I mentioned before, but it is, I haven't seen it by Rav Moshe Feinstein, but I think that, of course, he thought this, but I don't think he thought even in his wisdom and kedusha that we would drop to such a horrible level in this generation, where Thanksgiving has become the official day for people to make chilul Hashem. Why? Why is Thanksgiving the official day to make chilul Hashem? The worst sin in the entire Torah. Why? Why is somebody, a Jew, eating a bunch of turkey the size of his head, is especially a day for him to commit chilul Hashem? Because show me one Jew. One, not two, not three, not four, not five. Just one. One Jew that celebrates Thanksgiving that's as excited about any Jewish holiday as he is about Thanksgiving. Show me one Jew that is excited about Rosh Hashanah, the beautiful meals of Rosh Hashanah, as he is about Thanksgiving. Show me one Jew that is excited about Pesach, as he is about Thanksgiving. Show me one Jew that's even excited about Purim or Hanukkah, that's coming up, as he is excited about Thanksgiving. You're not going to find them. Why? Because Yetzirah doesn't show up for Thanksgiving. He shows up for Chanukah, for Purim, for Pesach, for everything else he shows up. This, Rabotai, is the definition of Chilul Hashem. Desecration of Hashem's name. We just took his Torah. We say, Hashem, we don't really like your Torah that much. So we're going to put it aside and become goyim a little bit. We like their holidays better. They're much more fun. We play football on this holiday. We eat turkey on this holiday. We can have our goyim friends over on this holiday. Isn't that, Hashem, maybe you should add this mitzvah to the Torah. Rabotai Yekarim, this Chilul Hashem is the type of sin that the tshuva for it only starts at death. It only starts with suffering. People always ask, oh, how come this happened to me? How come this happened to me? I lost money. I got sick. I got this. People ask all these questions. Why they have all these disasters happening to them? The Gemara says it. If you're seeing suffering happen to your life, check your actions. We just gave you a token. Free lunch. What's the free lunch? Check. Are you planning on celebrating this disastrous Chilul Hashem in a couple of days from now? Well, maybe you should consider not. Oh, but it's going to be very difficult telling my friends and family I'm not coming or I'm not hosting anymore. It's going to be very difficult. They're all going to hate me. They're all going to insult me. They're all going to tell me I'm fanatic. I shouldn't listen to you. I shouldn't listen to Hashem. I should be more peaceful. My rabbi says it's okay. Chabad is having a nice lunch at the Bet Knesset with us. This one is having it. And there's restaurants. There's restaurants all over Los Angeles, my friend told me. All over Los Angeles that are preparing festive meals specifically for Thanksgiving. Kosher restaurants. Kosher restaurants, an entire line of kosher restaurants. I'm sure, unfortunately, it's probably going to be in Florida, New York, and everywhere else also. I don't think Los Angeles is indeed different. But they're literally making special Thanksgiving meals. Kosher. Stuffing included too. Rabotai Karim, people ask, why do disasters happen? We should ask, why do we desecrate Hashem's name? We should ask. So far, we see that halachically speaking, there is no way that you could arrive at a leniency that you can celebrate this holiday on an annual basis. And even if you want to rely on a leniency, that you would do it once in your life, Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav Shalom, specifically says you should stay away from it anyway. If you did it b'diavad, or something happened, you did it on that day, it's one thing. You did it once, it's one thing. But if you're going to start doing it as a Yom Kavua, as a permanent day every year, you're going to do this like the Goyim do, then you, my friend, have a very, very serious problem. Now, this is enough that should hopefully make every religious Jew rethink, any Jew that calls themselves religious, rethink whether they're going to celebrate or have this turkey stuff. But there's another reason. As a Jew, you're obligated to ask questions, because the Torah tells us, in Gemara Masechet Brachot, that if you ask questions, you're bound to become a Talmid Chacham. If you don't ask questions, you're bound to become a fool. Either you're Chacham or a fool. Same price. You have to ask questions, meaning. So we have to ask a question, where does this holiday come from? Now most people are going to tell you, Abraham Lincoln, he came out, he made it a national holiday, 160 years ago approximately. He made it a national holiday. So that's why they celebrate it as a day of Thanksgiving in 1863. What people don't actually realize is that when he said that this should be like a special day, it was in the middle of the Civil War, while there was thousands and thousands of people being killed in cold blood in the Civil War on a minute-by-minute basis. But he said to everyone, Rabotai, we have a lot to thank. We have a lot to be grateful for. Now, he's either the Baal Shem Tov or he's sociopath. There's something wrong here. But the reality is that Abraham Lincoln didn't start Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was originally started in the 1600s. When the English came to the U.S., became Americans, if you will, and decided they don't really like these Indians so much. We don't really like these red people. So you know what? Let's just kill them. And they started massacring thousands upon thousands of American Indians without any mercy whatsoever of whether they were man, woman, or child, whether they even had weapons on them, whether they actually even had fought back. Nothing. It didn't make a difference. Oh, you're red skin? Oh, we're going to kill you. Oh, well, you know what? You're kind of useful. We're going to make you into a slave instead. We're going to make you into a slave. No, but your brother, we're going to chop his head off, and then we're going to put it as like something for an ornament. An ornament. But this one, I'm going to use your teeth. The other one, I'm going to take your... Like, in psychopathic things they did to these people. Now, if you don't believe me, you can go on the internet. Or better yet, you can go to the museum that I went to. The museum in New York City, Manhattan, in downtown Manhattan, shocked me when I went there years ago. They have something called the Trail of Tears. Now, the Trail of Tears sound like a really sad story about like a little bear that lost his way home or something. But it's not. What is the Trail of Tears? Is that these vicious people decided that killing Indians wasn't really enough on Thanksgiving. It's not enough. What should we do? We're going to walk them just going to walk them without feeding or giving them food or water or rest even. We're going to walk them from coast to coast, meaning from New York to Los Angeles. Just walk, no break. You go try walking to the store 15 minutes without stopping. They walked from coast to coast, Rabotai. I took a flight to Los Angeles. It took 6 hours. A flight is 6 hours. Needless to say, the vast majority of the American Indians died on this Trail of Tears. Tears meaning that they didn't stop crying either from pain and agony or physically, or pain and agony in seeing their family and friends die. Now some are going to tell you, yeah, but the Indians were vicious people. I don't know. I don't remember a time that the Indians did this to other people. But even if they did, doesn't necessarily give anybody else the right to torture anyone. The point is, Rabotai, is that any Jew with a little bit of Jewish neshama in them can start relating to these stories because the same exact thing happened to us. In the Bet HaMikdash, after Nebuchadnezzar Rasha destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, what did he do? He made us all walk until we either died or arrived at Bavel. The trail of blood and Bet HaMikdash destruction was like a river of blood. Tens and tens of millions, and some Midrashim say hundreds of millions of Jews died at the Bet HaMikdash, the first one and the second one. Point being, Rabotai Karim, is that although the numbers may not make sense to our little brains because we always like to compare things to today, according to the Torah, there used to be a lot more Jews than there are today. Either way, the vicious behavior that people act is not something we should ever celebrate. I'm not saying that the same people today are the people of yesterday, meaning you can't say that an American today is evil because his ancestor killed a bunch of Indians. You can't. They're not even connected. Just like an average black person that says, oh yeah, we suffered as slaves. You suffered? Do you even know anybody that was a slave? That was 100 years ago, 400 years ago. Well, it has nothing to do with you. You can't say that you're the same. You can't say you're the same. Maybe you feel persecuted for other reasons, but don't tell me you feel persecuted because of slavery. You were never a slave. Just like I can't tell you I was ever a slave in Egypt. I wasn't. But this reality does not give us the permission to celebrate massacres, to celebrate slavery, to celebrate the demise of any people. What if they decided to make a holiday where about 120 years ago they killed 30,000 Armenians in one day? 1906, 1907. They killed 30,000 Armenians in one day. What if we decide to make a holiday for it? Yay, this is the day 30,000 of those people died. What do you think the Armenians would feel like? How would this be honoring the Torah? The Torah that's full of mercy and Kedusha. Am Yisrael is celebrating the death of 30,000 Armenians? What if the Jews decided that, you know what, we want to celebrate a different holiday. We're going to celebrate the holiday that, you know what, the Americans and others decided to make all the black people slaves. And then they killed a bunch of them and tortured a bunch of them and pretty much didn't even let them go on a bus. In America, just 50, 60 years ago, you weren't even allowed to go on a bus unless it was a designated bus for you. We're going to celebrate that. We're going to celebrate the torture of the black people. How do you think the black people are going to feel? How are they going to feel? How are the white people going to feel? How is anybody with a brain going to feel? Say, you insane? This is the Torah. This is what the Torah is teaching you, to celebrate the demise of my grandfather, my great-grandfather, what's the matter with you? So I'm asking the black people that are even not Jewish, why are you celebrating it? If you don't want anyone to celebrate the demise of your ancestors, why are you celebrating the demise of somebody else's ancestors? You have to be fair. Meaning this is not even just Torah. This is just humanity. What if the whole world decided that, you know what, we have a special day. The Jews call it Memorial Day because 6 million people died in concentration camps under torture and all types of vicious death and experiments. We're going to all celebrate that day. They want to cry, we're going to say, ha ha! You cried, yeah, we did it. How are you going to feel about that, Am Yisrael? That the whole world is celebrating that 6 million of you died. It's not going to be so much fun, is it? Why? Because it's your ancestors, it's your grandfather, it's my grandfather, it's people that are related to you. So why are you celebrating it? I'm calling it Thanksgiving. You put a label on it saying Thanksgiving. You know what the Thanksgiving stood for? Thanks, they didn't have weapons, and we killed them. Thanks that we massacred. There was a massacre in 1627 or 1637. The Pequot massacre. And they killed at least 700 unarmed Indians, American Indians. Meaning, it wasn't a war. If it's a war, it's different. A war, both sides agree something's going to happen here. Somebody's going to die. But when it's not a war, it's different. Then it's murder. And you're going to call it Thanksgiving? So now I'm not going to be able to change the minds of 400 million Americans, because who cares what this bearded Jew is saying? But hopefully I'm going to change the mind of a few of them. More importantly, I'm hoping to change the mind of the Jews, the American Jews. Because whether you're religious or not doesn't really make a difference anymore. Today we don't even know what religious means anymore. You just have to be human. That's it. You cannot tell me that under the current circumstances, you have the permission to celebrate the demise of people. Now you can tell me, no, but I'm not celebrating the demise. I'm just thanking God. Okay, thank God another day. The original holiday was founded on this. If you want to thank God, thank Him on a different day. Why does it have to be this day? Thank him on a different day. Thank him the day before. Thank him a day after, it's Shabbat. Thank him 2 days later. Thank him next week. Why does it have to be on this day? Why? Because it has the tum'ah in it. So is anyone still confused if you're allowed to celebrate Thanksgiving or not?
No, I just have a question. Isn't Thanksgiving about the Pilgrims and the Indians getting along well?
That's the politically correct story from 1864. The real story starts at 1627. The nice story is that during the Civil War, a lot of people were dying. So people were losing hope. You start seeing bodies become mountains. You start losing hope. So Abraham Lincoln decided, you know what, let me listen to this journalist. The same journalist that wrote the song, Mary Had a Little Lamb. She was a very well-known journalist, and she was pitching for years to publicize a national holiday. And many states in America had such a holiday, and they called it Thanksgiving, but everyone did it on a different day. She pitched, and she wrote articles and books about it for many years, to make it one day. Abraham Lincoln said, you know what, let's connect this journalist's idea with this particular idea from people not losing hope, but in reality it's the same day, same time of what started a couple 100 years ago. So they put a bow tie on a pig. That's all it did. In reality, Rabotai, that's not the real story. The real story of Thanksgiving starts 200 years before. It starts at a time of murder. It starts at a time of rape. It starts at a time of a lot of things that are awful that none of us want to think about or know about, but the reality is it's very much a part of life. It's part of history. Celebrating Thanksgiving means that you are a part of that history. Whether you're celebrating it because you like football and a day off from work or not is irrelevant. If you really want to do any of those other things, you can do them on another day. You could do them on another day and still be called a human being. So with that being said, I'm hoping that this will put this issue to rest once and for all for anyone that's looking for the truth. If you're looking for sheker, you don't have to come here. You can go to a lot of other places to teach you sheker. Now, if you can ask me the last question, what about if my rabbi said it's okay? My rabbi said it's okay. And the answer is very, very, very simple. There's plenty of space in Gehenom for him too. No problem. Now, with this being said, we already see that the value of a little bit of knowledge is significant. The value of a little bit of knowledge is very, very significant. Meaning that you could live your whole life celebrating a holiday, not realizing that you're hurting a lot of people, not realizing that you're hurting Hashem, not realizing that you're bringing a lot of suffering to your life. So this little bit of knowledge should be monumental to some people who didn't know this. And this is exactly what this Mishnah is about. הלומד מחברו פרק אחד, או הלכה אחת, או פסוק אחד, או דיבור אחד, או אפילו אות אחת. צריך לנהג בו כבוד. שכן מצינו בדוד מלך ישראל, שלא למד מאחיתופל אלא שני דברים בלבד, וקראו רבו אלופו ומיודעו, שנאמר ואתה אנוש כערכי אלופי ומיודעי, ועלו דברים קל וחומר. ומה דוד מלך ישראל שלא למד מאחיתופל אלא שני דברים בלבד, קראו רבו אלופו ומיודעו, הלומד מחברו פרק אחד, או הלכה אחת, או פסוק אחד, או דיבור אחד, או אפילו אות אחת, על אחת כמה וכמה שצריך לנהג בו כבוד. ואין כבוד אל התורה, שנאמר כבוד חכמים ינחלו ותמימים ינחלו טוב, ואין טוב אל התורה, שנאמר כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו. Translation. Chapter 6 of the Mishnah in Avot, Mishnah number 3. We'll read the whole thing and then obviously go into the details of Bezat Hashem B'derech HaKdusha that we've been doing for the last 145 shiurim, 144 shiurim. We'll continue with this one, Bezat Hashem. He who learns from his fellow man a single chapter a single halacha, a single verse, a single Dvar Torah, single Torah statement, or even a single letter from the Torah, must treat him with honor. For thus we find in the case of David HaMelech, who learned nothing from Achitophel except for two things. Yet he called him his teacher, his guide, his intimate, as it is said in Psalms 55:14, "You are a man of my measure, my guide, and my intimate." One can derive from this the following. Meaning the lesson from this is, if David, Melech Israel, the king of Israel, who learned nothing from Achitophel except for two things, called him his teacher, his guide, his intimate, one who learns from his fellow man a single chapter, a single verse, a single statement, or even a single letter, how much more must he treat him with honor? The honor is due only for Torah, as it is said in Proverbs 3:35, "The wise shall inherit honor, and the perfect shall inherit good." This is 28:10, Proverbs 28:10. And only Torah is truly good, as it is said in Proverbs 4:2, "I have given you a good teachings, do not forsake my Torah." As you can see, there's a lot of verses in this Mishnah, so even though it's long, the Mishnah itself is not actually as long as the two before it, but nonetheless, still very extensive. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to learn some of these things and try to see how all of the things we talked about connect to it. Now, first and foremost, we see that our perspective of the value of Torah is worlds apart from what it's supposed to be. Because we see that David HaMelech, who learned two things from his enemy, Achitophel, who wanted David HaMelech to die, who insulted him in every chance that he could, but he taught him, he learned two things from him, even though he didn't ask to learn from him. But he learned two things from him. He calls him, he's my rabbi, he's my champion, he's the special. Meaning that the perspective that David HaMelech had for Torah is obviously worlds apart from what we have Torah. Why? Tell somebody, listen, this guy, you learned a couple of shiurim from him. No? Yeah. So you should at least call him rabbi. What rabbi? He's a pisa, he's a tura, I'm not. But you learned from him though, no? You learned from him. Didn't you watch a couple of shiurim? Didn't you come to a couple of shiurim? Didn't he do something? Like nothing? We're not talking about two things he taught you. We're talking about a whole shiur, 5 shiurs, 10 shiurs, 20 shiurs. So we see here our perspective already needs to do tshuva. Our perspective needs to do tshuva. What kind of tshuva? It says, "Alomed michavero perek echad o halacha echad o pasuk echad o dibur echad." So, one who learns from his fellow man a single chapter, a single halacha, a single verse, a single Torah statement. Here we see from Proverbs 3, chapter 3, verse 15, that Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest man of all time, says it's more valuable than pearls, this Torah. All of your wealth does not equal it. Meaning, the wisest man of all time is telling you, I have the brain power and capacity to have all the material in the world. I have the brain power to reach and achieve all the wisdoms of the world. The 7 types of wisdoms, I have all of them. I have the ability to do anything I want. He was mamash melech amiti. He was a real king, not just king of flesh and blood of people, of Am Yisrael, but king of all the nations, king of the animals. He would talk to the animals, talk to the birds, talk to the shedim, king of everything. He says, I rule everything, a real melech. And I'm telling you, you saying one little halacha, mayim achronim chova, that at the end of your seudah you're supposed to put mayim achronim. Just give me one halacha. Ma Masechet Brachot says you have to put mayim achronim before you do Birkat Hamazon, or at the end of your seudah. If you forgot before Birkat Hamazon, you can still do it after. Nonetheless, mayim achronim, you have to put a little water on after you clean your hands, after you finish eating, so there's no filth on them. You still have to put a little bit of water on your fingertips. It's called mayim achronim, last waters. The source of it comes from, in the old days, they used to clean their hands with salt from the Dead Sea. Now, salt from the Dead Sea is pure salt, and it cleans, and it can preserve food, and it can do a lot of things, but it could also destroy your vision. Meaning that if you forgot that you have salt, and you clean your hand with salt, but you forgot there's salt on your hand still, and after, naturally, you have something in your eye or something, you want to scratch your eye, you go blind. So they made a law, mayim achronim chova, meaning it's an obligation to put mayim achronim. Why? Wash your hands of the salt that you have on your hands, so you don't go blind. And even though we don't use the salt of the Dead Sea anymore, or salt none at all, still once it becomes an obligation, we cannot change it. We cannot change it. So till this day, anytime you eat bread, you have to, and you do Bracha Rishonah, to do Netilat Yadayim, you do the bread, you eat, and then after you finish eating, you have to put a little bit of water on your fingertips, and then do Birkat Hamazon. Obviously wipe your hands, then do Birkat Hamazon. So, Shlomo HaMelech, B'Kedushato, in his holiness, is telling you that you saying the simple halacha I just told you guys in the last 2 minutes, you just learned something new. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Probably you all knew it. But this is better than all of the things in the world. All the money in the world, all the women in the world, all the power in the world, all the wisdoms of the world, everything and anything in the world, this little 2-minute clip is the greatest thing in history. One halacha. It's more valuable than anything. Now, between us, who here agrees with him? Why? We don't have the right perspective. We're thinking, listen, Kvod Harav, relax a little bit. It's nice chidush. I appreciate it. It's good. But, man, come on, give me $100 million right now. Instead of this 2 minutes, I'll buy 100 of these chidushim with $100 million. Plus, I have some change left. What's the big deal? Should read in a book. No. That's the problem. That's the problem, Abotai. We have the wrong perspective. Why? Because Chachamim are trying to explain to us, Shlomo HaMelech is trying to explain to us, that once a person learns an halacha, if he has the right perspective of that halacha, he now understands that halacha just changed eternity. That halacha can actually get him to go to Gan Eden. Meaning, he just needs one. Imagine, his whole life he's trying to get there. He's trying to get to Gan Eden. He's trying to learn. He's trying to do mitzvot. He's trying to give tzedakah. He's trying to do a lot of things. But unfortunately, he's also doing a lot of sins without trying. Without trying, he's doing a lot of sins too. So he's like 49-50, 49-51, or 50-50. He's like right on the border. You may have to go to Gehinnom for a little while, sir. Now, just learned this halacha. He learned this halacha. Already it's a mitzvah every word that he listened to. Already it's a mitzvah every word that he read about this. Now on top of it, every time before he does Birkat Hamazon, he washes his little hand, he's fulfilling a mitzvah from the Torah. This can take him from 50 to 51%. From being in the middle, and he gets to Shamayim and says, sorry, sorry, sir. To the left, Yeah, with the hot, all the hot, yeah. It's kind of hot, yeah. You should have brought a towel, okay, I tell you. It's hot, yeah, I know, we know it's hot. One more halacha. Meaning this one thing, whatever it is, can change everything. A person with the right perspective that sees, wait, I can do one more mitzvah and that could change everything. If you really believed it, the value of every single mitzvah changes in huge magnitudes. Enormously. Why? This could be it. The next mitzvah could be the one that gets me to Gan Eden. The next mitzvah gets me to Gan Eden. And that's what the Rambam was trying to teach us, that every Jew has to look at themselves as if they're 50-50. Why as if they're 50-50? If I learn Torah all day, why is it 50-50? I learn Torah all day. No. Yeah, but you still do some sins. And you're judged accordingly to your level. And so on and so forth. Look at yourself as 50-50. Why? Because if you look at yourself as 50-50, then you'll still appreciate the next mitzvah as if it's the only mitzvah in the world, just like a tinok shel bet rabban. Just like a baby, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, that is just doing netilat yadayim, and she's so excited about this netilat yadayim that she's smiling the whole time. When was the last time you smiled doing netilat yadayim? When was the last time you said, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu velech? When did you do that? When? We buried Baruch atah Hashem Alam. Wait, did I just do the whole thing? Did I say Hashem's name? Why am I doing netilat yadayim? I'm not even eating bread. Like, we forgot if we did the blessing. We forgot if we said Hashem's name. We're not even sure if we're going to eat. I'm kind of stuffed. But the little 6-year-old, the little 3-year-old, she's so happy. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. You're like singing it. That's what we're supposed to be. That's what we're supposed to be. How can we get there? Very simple. The next mitzvah is the greatest mitzvah in the world. That's the one that changes everything. The right perspective, Rabotai, can turn you into an angel. But it's to keep that perspective. So now, we see that it's not just one halacha. He says it could be a perek. What's a perek? Even though our Tanakh has prakim, has chapters, it's debatable whether those chapters were in accordance with the sages of Judaism or sages of the Notzrim. We know there's the 5 books of Moses, we know the books themselves, but as far as the breakup of the actual chapters, not everyone agrees that it was the Jews that broke up the chapters that way. Needless to say, there's a machloket, debate. But one thing there's no debate on is the oral Torah. The oral Torah, the Gemara, the Mishnah, there's no debate. Our Gemarot, the seder, the lineup that we have, the structure that we have, the chapters that we have, is in accordance only with the sages of Am Yisrael. Why? Because the Goyim are scared of the Gemara. Because it exposes them. It exposes their J.C. Penney, it exposes their Muhammad, it exposes all of their Avodah Zarah. You look deep enough into the Gemara, either you become a Jewish or you commit suicide. You cannot be connected to Gemara and still be an idol worshiper. It's not possible. It's either you become a complete heretic because you're just a Rasha, or you become a Jew. And unfortunately, there's both. But our Gemara is mechuleket leprakim. It's chapters. A chapter, another word for chapter in Sfat HaKodesh is perek. So the Admor Migul said that the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, one of the bigger Masechets in the tractates in the Gemara and the Shas, has 24 prakim. That's 24 chapters. The Admor Migur says this is perfect. 24 chapters for you to learn, one each hour, so you can finish the Gemara Masechet Shabbat every Shabbat. This is what a Ish Kadosh thinks about, and he knows it's possible. In our generation, unfortunately, not many people think it's possible, but Rav Ephraim told me he knows somebody that did it. And I know the same person. The entire Masechet Shabbat in 24 hours. If you could do it in 2 years, you're okay. If you could do it Daf Yomi, let's say 155 pages, I think, 155 pages, something like that. So figure out it's 5 months. It's not bad. 24 hours? There's still tzaddikim in the world that can do it. But obviously it requires an enormous amount of mesirut nefesh. But in the generation of the Admor Migur, he says, 24 chapters, 24 hours. What's the big deal? This is how far we are from them. Now, the Mishnah also says this one perek can change your life. Why? Because this one perek can teach you how to keep Shabbat properly. This one perek, this one chapter, you can learn the Mussar from this Mishnah. Chapter 6. The whole chapter 6. You learn it a couple of times, you become a human being. Imagine you could walk your whole life thinking that you're a human being. You read chapter 6 of MUSSAR Pirkei Avot, or any one of the chapters before it, you become a human being. Your whole life you thought you were a human being. You arrive at chapter 6, you realize you're a monkey. But actually the monkey is more civilized than you because he doesn't get angry at anybody. And he's probably more generous because he gives bananas to other people. And he's not really a lot of other things that you do. But you arrive at chapter 6, you become a human being. You become a Jew. He says this one perek can change everything. But also this one halakha. This one halakha, if a person really understood the value of halakha, he'd understand that this halakha could literally change the world. Now, the Rav Yosefi, Alav Shichyeh, he's one of the Gdolim in our generation in Zikui Rabim. He's been doing KIRUV for 50 years, maybe more. Political correctness is not in his vocabulary. It's not. He's an Ish Kadosh. He doesn't know anything that's shekel. It's not in his vocabulary, shekel. Lies, sugarcoating. Anyone that speaks Hebrew should listen to his shiurim. After the first 5 minutes, you have Yirat Shamayim. After 10 minutes, you're Ish Kadosh. Why? If you don't, you just lose your mind. Because it's so scary sometimes. But we're not talking about scary because he starts talking about the details of Gehenom. No. It's scary because he throws your life in your face. In the easiest perspective for a person to understand. One time they asked Rav Yosefi to come give a shiur after a young man died. Young boy died, maybe 17, 18 years old. The family asked Rav Yosefi to come to the Alvaya and say some Dvar Torah, give some chizuk to the people. He's a well-known Rav in Israel. Bring him, maybe give us some chizuk. Now, the family wasn't that familiar with Rabbi Yosefi in a sense that they knew what he says and how he says it. They just knew he's famous. He's well known. He's an old-timer. We're not exactly Shomrei Shabbat, Shomrei mitzvot, and we just, we're modern. Rabbi Yosefi arrives at the shiur. Everyone's crying. There's a young man, 17, 18, 19 years old, just died. The body is right next to him. Not that the body is away and it's already gone, it's 30 days later, and you like, only the family still remembers, everybody else forgot already. No, the body is right next to him. the way he talks, he breaks up his speech, and he makes you think about his words, and by the time you finally caught your breath, he takes it away again. And this is what he said. This is how his lecture went in Hebrew, and I'll tell you in English what he said. אתם רואים אותו? הוא מת. אתם גם תמותו, אם לא תשמרו שבת. הוא מת. גם אתם תמותו אם לא תשמרו שבת. And he continues to go. What translation? You see him? He died. You're also going to die if you don't keep Shabbat. And he repeats it over and over again. And he tells them what's going to happen to them if they don't keep Shabbat. Meaning that if you didn't cry for the person that died, you cried for yourself. No sugarcoating, no nothing. And he gives you Torah as pure as it gets. And he gets people to do tshuva. He gets an enormous amount of people to do tshuva. Where are his number one clientele? Where are the people that he goes and gives shiurim on a regular basis? To the gangsters. He goes to all the gangsters, he goes to all the criminals, and he gives them shiurim. They get 3, 4, 500 people, sometimes 3,000, 4,000 people to listen to shiur, and they're all petrified of him. Imagine that murderers, killers are petrified of this skinny little Jew. He's telling them, you're going to die, you have to do tshuva. Okay, Rabbi, I put the tzitzit on. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't kill anymore, I'm sorry. They do tshuva. He gets murderers and killers to do tshuva, Rabotai. Why? Because the Yetzirah of the murderer, the killer, the criminal, he's not scared of some dugman, of some handsome rabbi that's telling him, no, you should go to Gan Eden, it's a better life. Better life? I have a better life. I do whatever I want. The cop looks at me the right way, the wrong way, I slap the cop. The cops are scared of me. What better life? I get a new girl every day. What better life? What are you talking about, little runway guy? Little runway rabbi. What is this? You see some of these rabbis, they come there, they're like little dugmanim, they just came on a runway show. They fix their tie and they suck their breath to make sure that you think that they have cubes. Groomed, and you think they just came from the barber just now. The barber came with them. They put some makeup on. The criminal looks at them. He's like, who is this? Who is this guy? Maybe I'm going to rob him. He looks like he has some money, this rabbi. But a Rav Yosefi comes to you and he tells you, you big gibor, you're nothing. You're nothing in front of Hashem. Hashem's going to crush you. And what he tells them. And they do tshuva. Why? Because Rabotai Karim, that's how we do tshuva. We don't do tshuva in the nice way. We just don't. Sometimes, once in a blue moon, a person will do partial tshuva. We'll start keeping a couple of mitzvot. Maybe they'll keep Shabbat. Maybe they'll do this. Maybe they'll do that. But they won't do full tshuva. And the reason why is because until you're scared to the point of literally dying if you do commit a sin, as soon as the Yetzirah comes, all bets are off. When you picked your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mitzvot that you like. You like tefillin, you like Shabbat, you like, I don't know, whatever it is that you like. Fine, it's nice. Yetzirah is not even interfering. He's not interfering. He's letting you learn. He's letting you go to B'knesset. He's letting you go donate. Do whatever you want. But every night he shows up at 12:30, right before you go to sleep, and he makes you a little warm. And he tells you, you know what? No, come on, your wife's sleeping. Don't wake her up. Go away, seat in the bathroom for 5 seconds. Go away, seat for 5 seconds. Takes 5 seconds. What's the big deal? The Zohar Kadosh says you can fulfill the entire Torah. If you continue to waste seed, it's all the mitzvot go to the Sitra Achra. All of the mitzvot, the Kedusha of the mitzvot, go to the Satan himself. All of them. Your Shabbat, your Tzedakah, your everything. Yeah, but my rabbi said it's too difficult for this generation. Yes, that's because he's wasting seed too. That's because he's also You think anyone that's have a 1% righteousness in them would ever say this to Am Yisrael? It's too difficult for you? It's kfirah. Kfirah to say it's too difficult for you. There's a pasuk in the Torah that says it. Bepicha bilvavcha la'asoto. It's in your mouth, it's in your heart to do it. Meaning everything is easy, you just got to want to do it. Hashem says, I swear on my name, the entire Torah is easy. All you got to do is fear me. That's it. Once you fear Hashem, everything becomes easy. So if your so-called rabbi says, no, wasting seed is too big for you, he's a kofir. He's not a rabbi. And he's also wasting seed, by the way. How do we know? We have a Gemara, Masechet Sanhedrin. It says, why is it real that Am Yisrael really worshipped idols? In the Beit HaMikdash, they saw miracles. They saw the Shekhinah. Really, they worshipped idols? Gemara says, no, you fool. It's not that they really believed in the idols. It's that they knew that as soon as they became idol worshippers, meaning as soon as the rabbis saw them with an idol, they would just say, this guy's too far. It's a waste of time. And as soon as he became a waste of time in front of the frum people's eyes, then he gave himself permission to go waste seed. Meaning the whole reason of why they brought idols to their life was not because of the idol itself, was because of the sex crimes they wanted to perform. But you can't give yourself the permission to perform sex crimes as long as you have a kippah on and the rabbi comes to your house. So how do I get the rabbi to stop coming? I tell him, listen, Rabbi, I changed gods. Last week it was your God, this week is this God, maybe next week is going to be your luck. Rabbi's not coming back to your house anymore. Why? You're an idol worshiper. Oh, Rabbi's not coming back? Okay, yalla. Bring Beyonce, bring all of her friends, bring all that stuff into the house. Why? Because in reality, the real reason was because of sex crimes. Rabotai Karim, 2,000 years, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. All of these people that are so focused on being popular and being known and writing books like this Rasha Merusha Shmuli Boteach. Not only did he write a book that's To'evat Hashem against the Torah, he wrote it with one of the filthiest women in the history of the world. A so-called rabbi wrote a book together with a porn star. You find this funny. To us, it's scary of what we got to. Why? Because he's one of the people that says, no, wasting seed, no, it's not for this generation. It's not for this generation. You don't have to fulfill this mitzvah. We took this out in this generation. It's too hard. There's no such thing as too hard. Now, this very same Rav Yosefi said an interesting chidush. He said that, what's the big deal of not blessing? What's the big deal of not blessing? The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 35b. What I opened, B'siyata Dishmaya, unintentionally, but apparently was the intention of heaven, says exactly what he said. What does it say? It says, Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa said, whoever derives benefit from this world without first reciting a blessing is regarded as if he robs the Holy One, blessed is he, and the assembly of Israel. So he says the basic pshat here is that if somebody decides that he wants to eat an apple, and he doesn't do a blessing, he steals from Hashem. He's a thief. In Shamayim, they go up to Shamayim, say, oh, you cannot go enter Gan Eden. Why? You stole from Hashem. Yeah, but it was only one time. Okay, so one time you're not going to enter Gan Eden. You're not going to not enter Gan Eden twice. Just one time. The one-time opportunity you have to get into Gan Eden, you're not going to get it. Maybe next Gilgul. Why? You stole from Hashem. But then the Gemara continues and says, yeah, but he's also considered as if he stole from the assembly of Israel. Why? Because Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lazeh, all of Am Yisrael are connected. Meaning, if you do a mitzvah, all of Am Yisrael benefits from this mitzvah. If Am Yisrael is at 50%, you do a mitzvah, you bring Am Yisrael to 51%. Positive. If you do a sin, Am Yisrael is at 50%, you put them at 49% mitzvot and 51% averot. Meaning that you can change the tides for all of Am Yisrael. So if you just stole, you now are taking away from Am Yisrael, and the Gemara continues to says, to such an extent that it may not rain. Meaning all of Am Yisrael can end up losing money because you decided that you don't need to pray or do a little thank you blessing to Hashem for eating an apple, a simple apple. A blessing that takes literally 5 seconds. You decided it's lo chashuv, it's not so important. It's Rabbanan. It's the rabbis made it up. It's not such a big deal. Well, the very same rabbis say, you do that just so you know, if their market crashes tomorrow, it's your fault. Now, Rabbi Yosefi adds even more. In his holy perspective, he tells us something that's connected to not only this Gemara, but also this Mishnah. Because this Mishnah tells us that anyone that learns from his fellow man a single chapter or a single halacha, it's a big deal. What did he teach us here? He said, if you don't do a blessing, you could even turn into what the Rambam calls a machti arabim, someone that causes others to sin, which the Rambam posek la'alacha in Ilchot Shuvah has no share of the world to come. He's the same thing as a Christian missionary. He's the same thing as the worst thing in the world. What's his name? Shapiro, Shmuli Boteach, Dweck, all of these Reshaim Arurim, he's in the same place as them. Doeg Adomi, Korach, Achitofel, all of those people, he's in the same place as them. For why? He didn't do a blessing? How? Rabbi Yosefi says this. He says, Rabotai, you think you live in the world alone. Breaking news. You're not alone. There are other people watching you. It's not just the eyes from Shamayim that watch you. There are other people that watch you. Other Yehudim. Other Jews are watching you. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's your wife. Maybe it's your husband. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's just somebody random that sees, oh, you're a Jew. I'm a Jew. I'm going to just look at you for 2 seconds. And they see that you just decide to eat this munch on this delicious sandwich without blessing Hashem. You happen to forget. You didn't forget to eat, but to bless Hashem you forgot. To eat, we never forget. We never forget to eat. To bless Hashem, we always forget. To eat, never. 3 hours, we have time for it. Birkat Hamazon for 3 minutes, we never have time. 3 hours, seven dishes of meals to eat as much of our weight. We eat, each one of us eats like our body weight on Shabbat. We always have time. Birkat Hamazon, oh, I'm kind of tired. Can you do it for us? Can you do it for me? I'll say amen. Can you do it for me? I'll say amen. Why, you ate so much you don't have energy? You ate for 3 hours, you don't have energy to say thank you? We never forget. To eat, we never forget. He says somebody's watching you not doing Birkat Hamazon. Someone is watching you. And what happens when someone watches you? Says, oh, you know, I thought that Steve over here was a tzaddik. He blesses. He's not blessing, so it's probably not that important because he knows a lot of Torah, this Steve. So he doesn't bless, so it's probably not important to bless. Oh, Abba doesn't bless. The teacher is just a fanatic. My rabbi is just a fanatic. See, Abba doesn't bless, so I'm not going to bless. Ima doesn't bless, so I'm not going to bless. Joey doesn't bless. Moshe doesn't bless. Nobody's blessing anymore. So blessing is for the previous generation, before iPhone. Before iPhone. We have an app now that blesses for us now. So there's no reason to bless Hashem anymore. What happens? You didn't bless one time. That person that saw you didn't bless for the rest of their life. You now contributed to him being a thief for the rest of his life. That makes a person a machti arabim. You have a very serious problem. You just made somebody a criminal permanently. And Rabbi Yosefi says, a machti arabim has no share of the world to come. For what? You forgot to bless Hashem one time. One time you forgot. Meaning that if you see the tzaddikim, you understand why they wrote what they wrote, why they cried on Rosh Hashanah, why they cried on Yom Kippur, why they cried almost every day. Because they were so scared of losing Olam Haba. They were so scared of other people losing Olam Haba. There's a Gemara where Eliyahu Navi tells one of the tzaddikim, he says, no, what do you want to know? He says, this market is full of Jews. Anybody here has Olam Haba? Eliyahu Navi that sees what's happening in Shamayim says, no, no one. Yeah, but they're all religious. Yeah, they have no share of the outcome. Nobody. It's so easy to lose Olam Haba, Rabotai. You'd be a fool not to have Yirat Shamayim. And that's why this Mishnah says that learning one halacha the right way can change everything. Because now, if you understood the words that came out of my mouth, that repeated what Rav Yosefi did to the best of my abilities, I don't think you're ever going to forget to bless Hashem. Why? It's too easy to do it and too foolish not to do it. What about Pasuk Echad? A Pasuk, Rabotai, can change everything. A Pasuk in the Torah can change everything, because when a person understands a real Pasuk, he can understand that the Torah is not kindergarten. For example, a lot of people don't like to talk about punishment, don't like to talk about things that are bad, but that's our Torah though. So they say, maybe we could become Christians because the Christians feel, live a carefree life as long as some moron died for them 2,000 years ago. They could be murderers, rapists, and everything in between. Just keep giving money every week on Sunday, and you're good to go. What are you going to learn from the Christians? Well, the Christians also use the Torah. Oh, what do they use? Oh, they look at the book of Isaiah. They look at the book of Isaiah. They usually repeat Daniel chapter 9, Isaiah 53. And they like those two books. The rest of the Torah, not so much, but those two books. So you know what? Let's use the book of Isaiah, which is really our book of Isaiah, by the way. It's not theirs. Nothing is theirs. So let's look at the book of Isaiah. Let's look at a pasuk inside the book of Isaiah. I just happened to open this chapter before the shiur, and I said this is a perfect pasuk. I don't know why this is a perfect pasuk, but somehow it's going to connect to this shiur. What pasuk in the book of Isaiah? The last one. The book of Isaiah has 66 chapters. The last pasuk says the following: ויצאו וראו בפגרי האנשים הפושעים בי כי תולעתם לא תמות ואישם לא תכבה והיו דראון לכל בשר. And they will go out and see the corpses of the men who rebelled against me. This is Hashem talking. For their decay will not cease, and their fire will not be extinguished, and they will lie in disgrace before all mankind. Rabotai Yekarim, the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, page 33b, gives commentary on this pasuk. What is this pasuk talking about? He says, these people are going to go out, they were sinners, they're going to see corpses of other people that went against me. Where are they going to see these people? Where are they going to see them? Where there's like a place where there's people that sin? There's a place. Anybody hear of a place where Hashem stores a bunch of sinners? Where is it? Let's continue. He says, for their decay will not cease, meaning that place, the lights never go off. It's always on. Let's continue. Their fire will not be extinguished. There's fire there. And the fire doesn't turn off. And they will lie in disgrace before all of mankind. They're going to be disgraced over there. Rabotai, Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, page 33 says, this is Gehenom. In the Torah. This is one of the sources to Gehenom. This is a pasuk that I just happened to see before the shiur. Meaning anyone that doesn't want to believe in Gehenom, simply you can't believe in the Torah then. Because there's no other way to interpret this verse. Whether it's the pshat, or the sod, or there's no other way. It literally says it. And all of the sages agree, meaning it's very much real. So now that I know this pasuk, now that I know that Gehenom really exists, there's a place, it's real, it's fire, it doesn't turn off, and it's a lot of shame for all the things that I did and so on. Okay, I don't want to go there. Pashut. I don't want to go there. Okay, Rabbi, I believe you. Now what? Now we have to read the Mishnah? Now, how do we get out of this place? So now, we also have to understand there's also dibur echad. What's dibur echad? A single dvar Torah. A person that looks at a single dvar Torah, a single shiur. Shiur can be 3 hours with me or 3 minutes in a clip. But if your neshama is open to change, either one can change your life. Sometimes a person comes to a shiur, within the first 5 minutes they did tshuva. The rest of the shiur is purely for entertainment. 5 minutes already they did tshuva. They saw it, they realized, okay, this is real, now what? Okay, teach me. They become a sponge because they decided already after 5 minutes, I have to change. Sometimes a person comes to me 2 years, doesn't change. Why? He's not open to change. He's open to complaints. He's open to suggestions. He's open to his own opinion. He's open to a lot of sins. He's open to everything else except doing tshuva. A person like that, I cannot help. No one can help him. Why? He is putting a door in front of the truth. Can't help such a person. But if that person listened to a shiur Torah, regardless of how long it is, and actually regardless of who said it, as long as it came from the heart and it's full of emet, that could change his life. Those 3 minutes or 3 hours can change that person's life forever, where he decides or she decides, I have to get my act together. I have to stop doing things that are against the Torah. Okay, Shabbat, I got to figure out how to keep it. Okay, my job's going to fire me. Okay, let them fire me. I'd rather they fire me than Hashem fire me. I'd rather fire from the boss than fire from Hashem. The reality is, Rabotai, is that as soon as a person understands Dvar Torah, 3 minutes, 3 hours, doesn't make a difference, but they're open to change, that means that everything is entering and nothing is leaving. Everything stays with them because they decide to change. But sometimes you can talk to people until they're blue in the face. Nothing changes. You can talk to people about different subjects. You can talk to them about money. You can talk to them about emunah. You can talk to them about Shabbat. You can talk to them about any subject. But they're simply not willing to change. There's one particular person I've been trying to help them do tshuva for maybe 3 years, 4 years. I think I've spent almost more time, or maybe more time in this person than anybody else. So far, I got a few extra mitzvot. But I didn't get tshuva yet. Now this person is brilliant. This person knows Torah, I think, better than me. Not that I'm some big chacham, but when I say things, they understand it. So how come they didn't do tshuva? Because they simply love the sin too much. They love the sin too much. They enjoy the sin too much. They glue to the sin too much. And they're not willing to let it go. They're not willing to let it go. You can't help such a person. You get a few extra good things here and there. Maybe some tzedakah, maybe this, maybe that. But there's just so much you can do. Same Mishnah says that afilu ot achat, afilu one letter, even one letter can change everything. Why one letter? Because in the Torah, you see in the Gemara in many places, the Chachamim weren't always experts in how to spell specific words. Not because they didn't know grammar, chas v'shalom, or they were missing knowledge, but rather because the Hebrew language is built very differently than any other language. Meaning that every single word in Sfat HaKodesh has to have a source from the Torah. You can't just create a word just because it just feels like it. Oh, this feels like a telephone. I'm going to call it telephone. Oh, this feels like a wall. Yeah, I'm gonna name it wall. It doesn't work like that. Meaning that in the Torah, there has to be a source that this word comes from. So you'll see in different places, in the Gemara Masechet Brachot and other places, where the Chachamim say, wait, which word is it? Like, for example, in Masechet Brachot, it says that what fire can you use for Havdalah? Fire of coals burning. It says, oh yeah, fire of coal burning is good. But fire of the other coals that are like, they're burning but not so much, they're just on, don't use that. Now, the word for, I think it's a, no, not gechalim, alumot, he says, wait, the alumot, it starts with the aleph or the ayin. Meaning, it sounds kind of the same word, but which letter does it start with, the Chacham says? He says, oh, well, no, this word, it's coming from book of Sefer Yecheskel. Why? Because it comes from the root of the word of something that's blurry, meaning you're not so sure it's right, you're not so sure it's left, you're not sure it's on, you're not so sure if it's off. So it's blurry a little bit. So the blurry fire, meaning the weak fire, don't use it for Havdalah. Meaning that the significance here is that even though the word itself sounds kind of like the same, it's not the same. That one letter makes a world of difference, where it could either mean the word blurry or it can mean the word world. Whether it's a ayin or a aleph. Meaning that the Chachamim explained to us that the single letter can change everything. It can change the halacha. Change the halacha. So, the other thing that you could also see, that's also connected thus far to where we're at, is if you understand, for example, the Torah's view of all other religions. For example, this whole situation with Thanksgiving or other holidays, where you'll see a lot of modern Orthodox or traditional or secular Jews thinking that I'm making too much of a big deal. Well, you should know that if you ever pray, you also think it's a big deal. Why? Because every prayer that we have, whether it's Shachrit, Mincha, or Arvit, ends the same way with the words of Yeshua ben Nun of Aleinu Leshabeach. In Aleinu Leshabeach, the second paragraph says, Al ken nekaveh lach Adonai Eloheinu lirot meira b'tiferet ozecha להעביר גילולים מן הארץ והאלים קרות יכרתון לתקן עולם במלכות שדי. Therefore we put our hope in you, Hashem our God, to see soon the glory of your might, to banish gilulim, idols, from the earth, and the false gods will be utterly cut down to perfect the world with the kingdom of Hashem. So now, this is what you say in Aleinu Leshabeach. So, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 16b, says, what does this word gilulim mean? How come they're using the word gilulim in Aleinu Leshabeach? Why don't you use elilim? Elilim also means idols. Where does this word gilulim come from? Chazal says it comes from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 4, verse 12. And Ezekiel says, what is this word gilulim? Gilulim comes from the word galal. Galal means dung, meaning the waste of animals. Meaning that you as a Jew are calling all other religions, their idols, you're calling it poop of animals in your tefillah. So to say you're going to celebrate it, this is our Torah. This is just one letter. You say this 3 times a day. For however many years you've been saying it. Now you know why you're saying it. Now you know where the word idols, this specific version of the word idol, where it comes from. What does Chazal, what does Hashem, what does the Torah think that it said? Chazal, Torah, Hashem, think of idols. Exactly what it says here. Gilulim. Galal, poop. That's what he thinks of it. This is what you say in your prayer, Rabotai. So from here we see that even a otachat, a letter, one letter, changes everything. Why? Because the letter changes the significance of the word. Now every single time you're going to say, Aleinu L'Shabach, you're going to think about, wow, not only am I praiseworthy that I'm a Jew, but all of these other people, what do they have? It's not. Do I ever want to be a goy now? Who wants to be a goy? Hashem says they're gilulim. Hashem says it's galal. Hashem says it. I'm going to be a goy. I'm going to celebrate the holidays. Meaning that it's all about the perspective that you have. If you're jealous of the goy, that means you don't realize that what you have is better. If your kid wants to be a basketball player and not Moshe Rabbeinu, that means that you're teaching him that the basketball is better than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's it. Don't be surprised that one day he comes back and he's acting like a goy. Why? Because you're teaching him that the goy is better. So now we just covered literally the first line of this Mishnah, and we haven't finished even the first sentence. Because here, the Chacham tells us here, anyone that learns any one of these things, a perek, a halacha, a pasuk, a dibur, a ot, a chapter, an halacha, a verse in the Torah, a dvar Torah, a lecture, a clip, a single letter from anybody, must give that person honor. Meaning, you must treat this person with honor. Why honor? Because now, once you understand that each and every single one of these things could literally change your eternal world. You learn this pasuk, now you're going to do mitzvot. You learn this midrash, now you're going to do tshuva. You learn this halacha, now you're going to get to Gan Eden. Once you realize that this one thing could literally change your eternity, you owe this person your life. Where do we learn it from? He says, look at where we learn it from. Melech Mashiach, David HaMelech. שכן מצינו בדוד מלך ישראל שלא למד מאחיתופל אלא שני דברים בלבד וקראו רבו אלופו ויודעו ומיודעו. He says, where do we get this? We get this from King David, who only learned nothing from Achitophel except two things. And yet he called him my teacher, my guide, my intimate. We see that the perspective here is very, very different. David HaMelech learned two things that the Chachamim have a debate about what two things that he actually learned from him, Bechlal. And yet his perspective of Achitophel is different than what our logic should say. On one hand, Achitophel is telling Avshalom, David HaMelech's son, go kill your dad. Go kill him. Why? Now's your time to be king. Now is your time to be king. Your father's getting in the way. Go kill him. Go murder your dad. And Avshalom tries. Avshalom tries to kill his own father. Why? To be king. Now, on the other hand, David HaMelech calls Achitophel, oh, he's my rabbi. Doesn't make any sense. He's your arch enemy. He's your enemy. He's ISIS. And you're calling him your rabbi. Now, Rav Moshe Lieber says that it's not that David HaMelech was trying to be pious, trying to be a chassid, was trying to be a tzaddik, or was completely oblivious and naive that Achitophel was his enemy. He knew very well who Achitophel was. He knew Achitophel wanted him dead. He knew Achitophel was an enemy. But yet he still called them all of this. Meaning that David HaMelech, on one end you can say he's making a mistake, chas v'shalom. Why? Because once you're a king, you're not allowed to let yourself be disrespected. As a king of Am Yisrael, The honor is not yours. The honor is not yours. You're not allowed to have anyone dishonor you. Because the honor of a king is not yours. You're not allowed to have anybody just dishonor you. Somebody dishonors a Jewish king, you have to kill him. You have to. There's no other way. This was the mistake that if it wasn't written, we wouldn't be allowed to say that David HaMelech made with Uriah Hittite. Uriah Hittite made a dishonored David HaMelech, and instead of David HaMelech killing him himself, he sent him to the war and put him in the front lines where he knew he was going to die. But he was supposed to kill him though. Kill him directly. Why? Because he dishonored the king. Now, Achitophel was going against David HaMelech all the time. But yet David HaMelech called him, no, he's my rabbi, he's my this, he's my that. Which Rav Moshe Lieber says, this shows us that it's not David trying to be pious. It's not David trying to be a tzaddik. It's not David trying to be a chassid. It's not David trying to go against the Shem chas v'shalom and letting himself be dishonored. No, David obviously had a source in the Torah that he knew once you learn something from another person, you learn some Torah from another person, you owe him your life. You now have to call him rabbi. You now have to call him my honoree. You owe him everything. Why? He just changed your world. Meaning that David HaMelech didn't do it from righteousness. In our eyes, obviously it is. But in his eyes, it wasn't, some type of humility. No. It was, he said, this is Din Torah. Din Torah is, I learned two things from this Achitophel. I have to call him my rabbi. I have to call him my honoree. I have to call him all these things. Because I learned Torah from him. That's how valuable Torah is to David HaMelech. Just like us. So now, Rabotai, we see that a person that's devout to Hashem, that's glued to Hashem, is never going to make the difference between the civil life, the religious life. Like, for example, the Goyim, they have a separation between church and state, from religion and the civil law. A Jew is not allowed to separate the two. There is no separation between church and state for a Jew. Everything is according to the Torah. The way you wake up, the way you eat, where you work, how you conduct yourself in business, how you communicate with people, what you buy, what you sell, everything you do has to be in accordance to the Torah. That is the biggest difference between us and all of the other nations. Because they can separate themselves from their rules whenever it's convenient. We do not have the permission to do such a thing. In fact, the Torah in Bava Kama says, on page 38, says that if anyone wants to become a tzaddik, anyone wants to become a chassid, go learn business laws. Why business laws? Because you have to become an expert in business laws in order to become a tzaddik. Not just how to act in the Beit Knesset and look like Moshe Rabbeinu, but how to conduct yourself when it comes to business, to money. So, here we see that David HaMelech is shocking us here with his behavior of what he's doing with Achitophel. Now, the Chachamim have a debate. What did David HaMelech actually learn here? What did he learn from Achitophel? What we learned from the book of Samuel is Achitophel was a terrible person, to say the least. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 98, says that there are 4 kings and 3 commoners that have lost their share of the world to come. One of the commoners that lost the share of the world to come is Achitophel. Why is there's many people that lost their share of the world to come in the world? Why is it such a big deal to mention Achitophel? Because Achitophel, if he was alive in our generation, he would be the Gdol Adol. If Achitophel was alive in our generation, in fact, in his generation, he was the Gdol Adol. As far as knowledge. As far as knowledge, he was a giant in Torah. He knew an enormous amount of Torah. But knowledge does not get you Olam Haba. Action does. if your Torah is not full of Yirat Shamayim, lo b'shamayimi. Your Torah is not connected to heaven. This is why the Chachamim say, look, David HaMelech learned two things from him. Meaning, usually you learn something, it connects to the entire body of Torah. With Achitophel, it's two specific things. Why? There's only two things. They're not even connected to the Torah. There's two things randomly. What are these two things? One opinion, the Rashi and Machzor Vitri says, and also it's mentioned in Sefer Merkevet HaMishnah, says that one time David HaMelech was studying in a Bet Midrash, and Achitophel walks in and he sees David HaMelech by himself. David HaMelech, all he cared about was learning Torah. But Achitophel, all he cared about was getting kavod, to show that he knows something. So what does Achitophel do? As soon as he comes into the Bet Midrash, he rebukes David HaMelech. Hey, what are you doing? Don't you know that our Torah teaches us that you're not allowed to learn by yourself? Who asked you? Who asked you to tell me anything? I'm learning right now. Who asked you to tell me anything? I'm the king, no? David HaMelech, in his humility, says to Achitophel, oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. What should I do? What should I... Meaning, he's not saying, oh, no, I'm learning with commentary, I'm learning with this, I'm David HaMelech, I'm a giant, I'm a prophet, really, I talk to Hashem. No, what does he say? No, you're right. What do I do now? He says, oh, let's learn together. Meaning he's an enemy, let's learn together. That was the first thing. That was the first thing, Abotai Karim, that Rashi and Machzor Vitri say was a lesson that he got from Achitophel. A unsolicited rebuke. Don't learn by yourself, you have to learn with me. Second one is when Achitophel saw that David HaMelech walked into the Bet Midrash, and he saw he's walking straight up. He says to him, hey, what are you doing? Don't you know? You're not allowed to walk straight up. Put your head down. Where's your Yirat Shamayim? David HaMelech, that says, Ani tolat velo ish, I'm a worm but not a human being, is Achitophel Rasha, says, where's your Yirat Shamayim? Your head's so high. He's the king. He says, no, you're right. What should I do? Walk with your head down. David HaMelech says, no, you're right. He starts walking down. Meaning, you just got a rebuke, but some guy, you should kill him right now. But instead he says, no, you're right, I should do tshuva. What am I going to do? Just like us.
Is that the right thing to do?
For David HaMelech, yes. For us, yes. But probably won't do it. Because we're not David HaMelech. Some say that it wasn't that he told him you should walk with your head low, but rather you shouldn't study by yourself, but rather you shouldn't pray by yourself. That's another opinion. But then there's two other opinions. The Yakut Shimoni brings two other lessons. Two other lessons from the Midrash that are very, very interesting stories in themselves. The Gemara says that there was one time that David HaMelech made a mistake. And he called the Torah during one of his talks with Hashem. Some say that he talked to Hashem through prophecy. Some say he talked to him through prayer. Needless to say, he's Kodesh Kodashim, and Hashem decided that he is the fourth in the Merkava. But during one of the times that David HaMelech said Torah, he compared the Torah to songs. Because he wrote the songs, the Psalms. And Hashem didn't like it. Hashem didn't like that David HaMelech compared the Torah to a song. Because a song is something you can forget, or you just know it by heart, but you don't learn the laws. And Hashem says, you treat my Torah as song as if you could just remember it by heart, but not toil in it. I will make you, as a midah for make you neged midah, a measure for measure, I'll make you forget the simplest halacha. Meaning that Hashem, when He rebukes or punishes the righteous, the tzaddikim, it's mamash lechut asara, it's a hairbreath. Tiniest thing they said. For us, not even a sin. Call the Torah song from here till tomorrow. No one's even going to look at you. The fact you're saying Torah is a mitzvah already. You do it from till tomorrow, maybe you be Gdol Ador. Who knows? But Be'emet, David HaMelech called his Torah. One time he said song. Hashem says, you treat my Torah like it's a song, I'll make you forget the simplest halakha that a little baby remembers, a 3-year-old remembers, and it's going to cost you. What was the halakha? When they were transferring the Aron HaKodesh, David HaMelech forgot momentarily, what should I do with the Aron HaKodesh? Should we carry it? Or should, as you know, on us? Or should we put on a horse and carriage? On the carriage, you know, fancy carriage, of course, but with rims and everything. But you know, but it's a carriage, not people. Why people carry it? It's heavy. It's. And he asked. He forgot the halacha. Gdol Ador, the biggest rabbi in the world, the king of Am Yisrael, the Mashiach, forgot a simple, tiny halacha. How do you carry Aron HaKodesh? Meaning, this is not like, oh, he forgot some sugya that the Chachamim had a machloket in, and it's something really, no, it's something very, very simple. You have a Pasuk in the Torah that tells you what to do. He forgot it. So yes, does anybody know? Does anybody know? Nobody answered. So okay, so put it on the carriage. Put it on the carriage, that's the wrong decision. Hashem made the Aron HaKodesh that would usually lift by itself. No one actually had to lift the Aron HaKodesh. But as soon as they put it on the carriage, now all of a sudden, it actually had weight. And it tilted over. And as soon as this person by the name of Uzzah, which was a friend of David HaMelech, touched it, he died. Why? Chutzpan, you think that actually Hashem is going to allow the Aron HaKodesh to touch the floor? It's going to float. What are you trying to hold my Aron HaKodesh by yourself? He killed him. Killed him on the spot. Touched the Aron HaKodesh, he died. Meaning that David HaMelech, because he forgot this tiny little halacha, he lost his friend. So now he said again, does anybody know what to do here? Achitophel says, yeah, you know, really you're supposed to carry it. There's a Pasuk in the Torah. Meaning this Rasha Merusha wanted David HaMelech to fail. He knew the whole time you're not allowed to put on a carriage. But he spoke in like a vague way that no one really understood what you're supposed to do until somebody died. Advice like that is useless. Another time, when David HaMelech asked Hashem, please, let me build a Bet HaMikdash. Hashem said to David HaMelech, I'm sorry, but you cannot build my Mikdash because there's blood on your hands. It's like, yeah, but what blood on my hands? I went to war for you. Yes, you went to war for me, but still there's rules that I have. You cannot build my Bet HaMikdash. But because I love you, you can build a foundation. So David HaMelech was excited to build a foundation of the Bet HaMikdash. But when he got to the bottom and he built it, the Midrash says, there was like a rock on top of a hole. And the people tried to move it, and it wouldn't move. So David HaMelech went over there, and the rock spoke to him. He says, what are you doing? He says, I'm moving you. I got to build a foundation here, because you can't move me. I've been here before you. He goes, no, but I need to move. I'm going to build the Bet HaMikdash. He goes, you cannot move me. I'm telling you, don't move me. It's going to ruin the whole world if you move me. If you move me, it's going to ruin the whole world. You're going to destroy the world. He goes, no, come on. David HaMelech didn't take the rock seriously. He moved the rock. and water started coming out that everyone knew, and David HaMelech knew to his Ruach HaKodesh, this water is going to drown the whole world. Meaning there's no way to put the rock back. No way, because the water flooded everything. People started drowning. The city is going underwater in seconds. So he didn't know, how do I stop this water? He says, wait, all I can do is maybe I could put the name of Hashem, use the name of Hashem, the Shem Meforash, and put the name on a cloth, throw it in the water, and that's going to stop the water. But am I allowed to do that? Because that would erase Hashem's name. Torah says we're not allowed to erase Hashem's name. So he says to everyone that's there, people are drowning, people are panicking, everything. Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Meaning, this whole time he's trying to find halakha, look through the books, look through everything. Achitophel is right there. Achitophel is right there, and he wants David HaMelech to die. And only until David HaMelech says, if anybody knows the halakha of whether I'm allowed to throw a cloth into the water, and is not saying it, may be cursed for eternity. Achitophel, who knew that David HaMelech's words will become true, said, okay, yes, there's an halakha. You're allowed. He goes, what's your source? He says, if Hashem allows us to take his name and write it on a cloth and then throw it into water to have it erased, to save one marriage, when there's the maaseh sotah, when there's a wayward woman that's suspected of cheating on her husband, we don't know if she cheated, we don't know if she didn't cheat. Only way to find out is if she drinks the water. But the water has to have something in it. What is it? It has the ink of Hashem's name. Meaning Hashem allows his name to be erased for the sake of proving either that she's guilty and then she'll blow up and die, or that she's innocent and then she'll get the blessing. All of our sons will be handsome and so on and so forth. So, meaning Hashem allows us to erase his name for the sake of Shlom Bayit, for the sake of saving this marriage. Kal v'chomer, needless to say, Achitophel says that he will allow us to erase his name to save the whole world. That's the halakha. You're allowed. David HaMelech wrote the name on a scroll, threw it in the water, and the water stopped coming up. But now still, there are 7 levels of water, meaning the whole city is underwater. What do you do with this water? You guys ever hear of Tehillim, Shir Le'Ma'alot? How many of them are there? Each one took the water one level down. Now first it was above ground. Had to go above ground all the way to the bottom. To below ground where it started. Each Shir Le'Ma'alot took it one level down. That's why he wrote the Tehillim. Those specific Tehillim. So we see here that Achitophel literally couldn't wait for David HaMelech to die. But David HaMelech, instead of looking at his chesronot, at his lackings, at his wickedness, what is he looking at? He's looking at the Torah that he had. He's looking, this guy, this Achitophel, he taught me a little Torah. What he taught you a little Torah? He almost killed everybody. No, put that aside. I learned Torah from him. He's my rabbi. He's my aluf. He's the best. This is the difference. So when he found out that Achitophel is really going against him, when he teamed up with his son Avshalom, David HaMelech says, you're a man of my measure, my guide, my intimate. When did he say this? He said this after he found out that he's going against him. He says, you are my confidant, you are my person I shared my most intimate secrets. What intimate secrets? We learned Torah together. Intimacy in a sense of Torah. I learned with you, and you're going against me. Meaning, how could it be? But still, I'm not going to judge you like I judge everyone else. Why? Because you have Torah. His value of Torah was so different than anyone else that I've ever met, that it's really like it's a perspective that he only saw the Torah in the person. Everything else was insignificant. Today, we only see the God nefesh in a person. Torah, not Torah, doesn't make a difference. So now, what does this teach us here? Well, first and foremost, you should know that the root of Achitophel's wickedness didn't start for nothing. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 106b, asks, why doesn't Achitophel have a share of the world to come? Like, okay, so these couple of situations where he delayed the answer to David HaMelech, and the one time that he went against Avshalom, against David HaMelech, but does that really, if a murderer just loses his Olam Haba? He says the Olam Haba that he lost was because of his jealousy. His jealousy led him to go against David HaMelech, the king that Hashem chose, but when he realized that he's wrong, and he's going to lose the war, he went and he killed himself. He hung himself at the age of 33. But before he killed himself, he told his children, don't ever go against David HaMelech. Don't ever go against his descendants. He's the Emet. But he couldn't deal, his ego couldn't deal with the fact that he was wrong. So despite all of the Torah that he knew, it all became worthless. So from here, we learn that a person can derive the following. If David HaMelech, who learned nothing from Achitophel except these two things, but yet called him teacher, guide, intimate, when a person learns from his fellow even a single chapter, a single verse, a single statement, or even a single letter, how much more does he owe him honor, treat him with honor? But not honor for the person himself, but rather honor for the Torah in that person. People today, they say a lot of things as if, they're valid. Because the person that said it has a PhD next to their name. Oh, Dr. Such and Such said that this does this. And Dr. Such and Such said that you should do this. And Steve this, PhD from MIT, said this, so you should do this. And the Nobel Prize winner said this, and you should do this. And they drop names like they're, like all of these things are like the sages. And they tell you, and they speak in their smart language that they have with all of this arrogance as if they know for sure that they're right. But anyone that's reviewed history knows that scientists are born every day. And every time they get a lot of kavod, that kavod that they get is only temporary. Why? Because it's only a matter of time before that scientist is proven wrong. And all the kavod that you gave him, and his PhD, and his doctorate, and his MIT, and his Harvard, and all the nonsense that people give him all the honor and the money for, it's only a matter of time before all of it is worthless because somebody smarter came along and proved him wrong. But yet, we state Darwin and his buddies and all of the other scientists as if, no, these people know what they're talking about. They went to school for 1,000,000 years. They were here with the dinosaur. That's how long they're in school. But yet, when a Talmid Chacham says something, like, nah, I don't think Rashi knows what he's talking about in this one. Rambam, nah, I don't hold by the Rambam. I don't hold by the Rambam. No, I'm more into more of this generation, rabbis. More like people say the most foolish things in the world. Why? Because they have no value whatsoever to the title rabbi. So first and foremost, what is a rabbi? The Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia gives a definition of what a rabbi is. It says, first and foremost, page 33a, it says he should know, this rabbi person, if he lost something, and your father lost something, and you have to go find it, you have to go find the rabbi's stuff first, before your own father. Unless your father is a Talmid Chacham. If your father is a Talmid Chacham, go find his stuff first. If both of them are prisoners, and you can only free one of them, your father or your rabbi, you have to go free your rabbi. You have to go free your rabbi. Why? And many other examples of why the rabbi is more significant than even your flesh and blood father, unless your father is also a Talmid Chacham. If he's not, then no. Why? He says, the Gemara says here in Bava Metzia 33a, the rabbi takes precedence over the father. Why? Because the father brought him into this world, and his teacher, his rabbi, taught him the wisdom of Torah, which brings him to the world to come. Your father brought you to this world, you owe him a akarat tov, you owe him to go find the stuff, to free him from prison, and so on. But you don't owe him as much akarat tov, as much gratitude as the rabbi that saved your eternity. Got you to do tshuva, got you to convert, got you to get married, got you to become a decent human being. You owe him everything. Why? Your olam haba depends on him. Now, who is a rabbi? Who is his rabbi? So the Gemara says, there's a machloket, meaning there's a debate between three chachamim. Rabbi Meir Bar Anes says, his rabbi is the person who taught him wisdom, meaning the most profound analysis of Torah, which means the Talmud, the Gemara. And not the rabbi that taught him the Chumash or the Mishnah. That's the words of Rabbi Meir Bar Anes. Rabbi Meir says, you have rabbis that give you shiur about Parashat Shavua, or teach you a little Mishnayot. Sure, do this, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's good. But then there's a rabbi that taught you the most sophisticated part of the Torah. The stuff from the Gemara. That's your rabbi. That's your rabbi. Why? He's teaching you the highest level. So then Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's not that. Who's your rabbi? The rabbi is that taught him the most amount of content, the most amount of information. Why? Because everyone has usually more than one rabbi. So you have one rabbi that's going to teach you a little Gemara. One rabbi is going to teach you Chumash. One rabbi is going to teach you Halachot, and so on and so forth. He says, but usually if you have, let's say, 3, 4, 5 rabbis, usually one of them is going to teach you the most stuff. You may learn shiurim from 5 of them, but one of them is like 50% of your knowledge, and the other 4 are the other 50%. So Rabbi Yehuda says, the one that's 50%, he's the majority, he's your rabbi. Rabbi Yossi says, no, we have a source in the Mishnah, in Pirkei Avot, the Avot that we're learning from. He says, who is the rabbi? The rabbi is someone that even taught you a single Mishnah. Meaning anyone that taught you even a single thing, he's already your rabbi. Where do we learn it from? We learn it from this Mishnah, which learns it from David HaMelech. So there's a few things that we learn from this Gemara and this Mishnah. First and foremost, the foolishness of this generation that, especially in the West, which every time they don't like what somebody says, they ask, where did he get his smicha? Does he have a smicha? Does he have even, is he a real rabbi? So first and foremost, you should know that the real smichas has already vanished the world for somewhere in the neighborhood of over 1,000 years. Some say even 1,500 years. Second of all, a smicha does not make a person a rabbi. Teaching Torah, having yirat shamayim, having Torah knowledge, and teaching it to people, that's what makes a person a rabbi. But if you have a smicha, that doesn't hurt. That gives you a certain amount of knowledge. You've learned certain things. But just because somebody doesn't have a smicha does not mean they're not a rabbi. Only a fool thinks that. Because here we have the Torah telling you who's a rabbi. We see many examples of the Gdolei Ador. For example, Rav Ovadia alav hashalom never took a formal test for a smicha. Rav Moshe Feinstein and many of the Chachamim that were giants, heads of Batei Din, never took a formal test to get a smicha, simply because they were called or considered something called Gaon Mukar, meaning everyone knew they knew better than everybody else. There's no reason to test them. Now, if a person wants to gain a certain amount of knowledge, he wants to have a certain expertise, he has the ability, the time to go get a smicha, that's fine. But that's still not necessarily going to make you a rabbi. There's plenty of people that have plaques on their wall that say smicha, but they're as far from being a rabbi as a missionary is. When we received our Yoreh Smicha recently from the kollel of Eshel Avraham, of Rav Spivak. Now this smicha is a serious smicha, but during the whole event, the most profound thing that I heard, they invited me to speak also, aside from getting it too, Baruch Hashem, but the most profound thing that I heard was in the beginning. One of the rabbis that's already has a smicha for many years and is part of the Igud HaRabbanim for many years, and he says something extraordinary. He says, if you're not going to go out there and teach Am Yisrael, go get them to do tshuva, go get them to do something useful, go get them to become Jews. If you're not going to do that, and all you want is smicha for is to put it on your wall, do us a favor, give it back. Give us back the smicha. The smicha is not a plaque like the lawyers. Smicha is not a plaque like the doctors, or like the 9 or 10 plaques that I had in my investment office. You come to my house, I have a couple of boxes full of plaques. Now each one of these plaques cost a lot of time. Tests, each one of them, anywhere, a couple of 100-question tests. They weren't easy to get. My whole wall was full of plaques. Plaques from different awards that I got, plaques from different tests that I got, full of plaques. My wall you didn't need wallpaper, you just had plaques. And you know what they're all doing now? They're all in boxes. I don't know what to do with them. Make them into firewood, maybe just put them in somewhere else. I don't know what to do with them. Why? Because they're all useless. But a smicha, rabotai, can either become useful or also useless. If you use that knowledge and that teudah, that certificate, to go get Am Yisrael to become real Jews, it's very valuable. It's very valuable because all the naysayers have one less thing to say. All the doubters have one thing less to say. All the people that have questions know, okay, this person, obviously somebody signed off that he knows something. You can't just get it because of your good looks. But if you're not going to do it, if all you're going to do is just show people on the internet that you have it, or you're just going to put it on the wall, or you're going to get yourself a little synagogue and get a bunch of people to come to the synagogue so they can pray there but not actually do tshuva. They come to the Knesset for 20 years, still never do tshuva. Then do Am Yisrael a favor, take that smicha, put it in a garbage pail, and go to work. Go get a regular job. Why? It's useless. The point of a smicha is for you to get Am Yisrael to do tshuva in one way or another. Sometimes it's through mussar, sometimes it's through halachot, sometimes it's through a combination. Whatever it is, get them to do tshuva. If they're not going to do tshuva, take the smicha, put it in the garbage. It's not worth anything. It's not what you got it for. This is what we're actually learning here. The Chachamim are not disagreeing with each other. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yossi are not disagreeing with each other. They're all telling you the impact, what is going to make an impact on people. Rabbi Meir says, if you teach somebody the seriousness of the Gemara and how he needs to toil and toil for Torah, then you are a rabbi. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, just teach him a lot. Eventually he's going to get it. Rabbi Yossi says you can say one thing changes life. Change one thing, changes life. Sometimes you have the siyata dishmaya that one sipur, one story changes a people's life. Sometimes you need to teach them for a year, 2 years straight before they do tshuva. Sometimes you need to do one-on-one, teach them a lot. You got to do tshuva one-on-one. Why? It's the only way this wall, this rock, is going to break. Either way, you want to be a rabbi, that's what's necessary. This is what's necessary. This is why Rabotai Karim, the same Gemara Masechet Brachot, says the following. If you want to learn Torah, you have to make sure that you're learning not by yourself. So what about all the people, which is the vast majority of the public, including the Gedolei Hador, that learn by themselves? Most of the Torah you learn by yourself. So by yourself meaning that you're actually not just learning what it says, but you're actually deciding what the halacha is by yourself. That's what it means by yourself. But if you're learning from the sages, if you're learning with commentary, it's like learning with a chavruta. Meaning if you're learning whatever, whether it's Art Scroll or the Chumash with Rashi or Rambam, that's like learning with a chavruta. Who's your chavruta? Rashi. Rashi is your chavruta. Rambam is your chavruta. The Marsha is your chavruta. That's what your chavruta is. Meaning, as long as you decide the conclusion based on what they said, not what you said. Meaning, you read what they said, and that's the conclusion, not what you decide. No, you know what? I don't agree with Rashi. Then Rashi is not your chavruta. Then it's just a storybook. Meaning, as long as you arrive at the actual conclusion based on what the Chacham that you're reading is halakha. You read, let's say, Rav Moshe Feinstein. You read Rav Ovadia. You read their halachot. You read their psak. You say, okay, that's it. And not decide to be a hero and decide by yourself. If you want to decide halakha, if you're at such a high level, you start doing psak halakha, then you actually need to have some physical body there that's also going to learn not only the Rashi and the Rambam and the Poskim with you, but also going to go back and forth with you. Meaning, if you just want to learn what to do, right or left, black or white, and so on and so forth, you can learn with commentary, learn yes or no problem, by yourself. Always better with a rabbi, but by yourself is fine too. As long as you're reading what they said, and you're deciding what to do based on what they said. But if you want to decide what to do that's contrary than what they said, then you have to go learn with a rabbi and a real Talmid Chacham and so on. So, because what ends up happening is that a person that learns by themselves and decides by themselves is a person that the Gemara says that Hashem hates him. Why? Because he could live his whole life making a mistake and never doing tshuva. Because he'll never know. It says that v'lo od ela shemitapshim, not only those that engage in Torah study alone, there will be a sword against them, sword of enemies against them, meaning that they're, what they're doing is going to hurt them. The Torah is a poison. It's not a potion of life, it's a potion of death. Why? Not only that, they end up becoming foolish because they end up making mistakes in their rulings. And not only that, but they end up becoming big sinners. So, in order to arrive at the truth, the Gemara continues in this page 63b. Amar Resh Lakish. What does it mean? Katetu atzmechem al divrei Torah. Grind yourself over the words of Torah. What does it mean? To exert yourself to the utmost in order to acquire Torah. What does that actually mean? Amar Resh Lakish. Minayin she'en divrei Torah mitkaymin, ela b'mi shememit atzmo alea. That from here we learn that the words of Torah are not retained except by one who is willing to kill himself over the Torah. As it is written in Numbers 19:14. Zot Torah Adam ki yamut ba'oil. The Pasuk says this is the Torah of a man who dies in a tent. So how do you know what does it mean to die over it? I'll give you an example. Of what does it mean to become a Talmid Chacham that's able to be a posek la'alacha that a lot of people would like to go against. There was a Rabbi Reuven Alevi, heard the story from Rabbi Ephraim today actually. Rabbi Reuven Alevi wrote about his pirush, his commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. And one day, his son sees that he's literally bent over his Gemara with his mouth open. He's barely breathing. He has no energy left in him. No energy left in him. From the amount of studying that he did for extended a period of time and toiling and sacrificing his body, he got to a point where he was literally dying. His son told him, Abba, why don't you get some rest? He says, no. I'm trying to fulfill the verse from the Torah to die over the Torah. I'm going to try to die over this Gemara. That's a lover of Torah. It's not figuratively speaking. It's figuratively speaking to us, weaklings, that if we could study 2 hours, it's already, we think, Moshe Rabbeinu. The Chachamim literally were trying to die for the Torah. Trying. That's what they were trying to do. The Steipler Gaon had a thing where he would learn for 36 hours straight. 36 hours straight, he would learn. And then he would sleep for 8 hours, and then learn again another 36 hours. Meaning a day and a half. One time, it was time to get from shiur, to get married. This is still, he's a young person. Time to get married. Now the Chazon Ish wanted him to marry his sister. He knew he was a Talmid Chacham, and he wanted to set it up. Before the meeting, first time they're ever going to meet, the Steipler Gaon had one of his sessions of 36 hours. And he planned, he said, listen, I'm going to be on a train. So I'll sleep on a train for 8 hours. Studied for 36 hours. Just saying it is hard. Saying 36 hours is hard. He studied for 36 hours straight. No, he smoked breaks, went to the bathroom, ate lunch, maybe played with the kids a little bit. No. 36 hours straight. Studying Torah, toiling to get to Mount Sinai. And then people are surprised he had Ruach HaKodesh. After he studied for 36 hours straight, he got to the train, he's ready to go to sleep. But he saw on the seats, there was Safek Shatnez. Safek, there was like a doubt, maybe there's Shatnez on the seat. So he can't sit on Shatnez. What are you going to do? He can't sit. So he stood up the whole train ride and learned for another 8 hours.
So you're on the side and when you're wearing.
For Steipler Gaon is a different world.
I mean, he was machmer.
He decided to learn for the whole train ride another 8 hours, meaning 42 hours, 44 hours straight. 44 hours straight of Torah. So as soon as he got to the shidduch, he said, hi, and passed out. So the girl, she got offended. She goes to, come on, this guy, he's not even excited to see me. He falls asleep. Chazon Ish says, no. If he fell asleep, that means he learned the whole time for the last 2 days. If he fell asleep, that means he was either going to die or fall asleep. Marry him I promise you, he fell asleep on a date and he couldn't talk to you, but everyone is going to want to talk to him. She goes, yeah, but he's deaf in one ear. Because he may be deaf in one ear because he got deaf from the war. He went to war, he got deaf in one ear. He may be deaf, but everyone's going to listen to what he says. He may be deaf, but everyone else is going to listen to what he says. She married him. But you see, the point is, Rabotai, is that when the Torah says to be a chacham, to earn Torah, you have to sacrifice your life. It's not figuratively speaking. It's literally speaking. The Maharsha, who you see in almost every page in the Gemara, his commentary, he decided to grow long hair. But they say it's not good to grow long hair as a Jew. Why? You look like a woman, right? Don't worry, he wasn't trying to look like a woman. Why did he grow long hair? One time, somebody asked him, Kvod Harav, why do you have long hair? He didn't want to answer. It's not, tzaddikim don't disclose their secrets. So they had to see it. What did they see? The Maharsha, when he was a child, he was considered a fool. So to overcome his foolishness, he had to study extra. He had to toil with Torah, because somebody that wants chokhmah, Hashem gives it to him. Doesn't matter how you start off. So he decided that the only way that he could overcome it is if he studied non-stop. That means that he couldn't afford to sleep. So he would put his legs inside cold ice water to keep himself up. But sometimes it's not enough to keep yourself up. So what did he do? He grew long hair. He grew long hair and he tied it to the wall. So as soon as his head fell down because he's tired, he wants to fall asleep, his hair would be pulled and he woke up. Don't worry. And that's how you become the Maharsha. A lot of people tell him, oh yeah, I studied all day today. Oh yeah, what'd you study? Oh yeah, I watched shiurim and in my car, and I hung out with the kids a little bit. So how long did you study for? Oh yeah, I did a lot today. How much? Yeah, I watched half of your shiur. So, Zaku Baruch. You're not the Maharsha though. It's good. It's good. It's better than baseball and football, but you're not the Maharsha. We're still waiting for that. Meaning, Rabotai, that to be a Talmid Chacham, to be something special, a person literally needs to be willing to sacrifice his life. Now, why am I telling you this? There's two reasons. Number one, because each and every single one of you has an opportunity to be one. For the men, each one can be one. Doesn't matter where you are today. It only matters where you're going to be tomorrow. Why? Decides what you do with this information that you got today. If you decide to continue making excuses for why you can't do it, or why you want to do it but you can't, or why you wish you do it but you can't, and but you're going to do it but not now, then you're not going to be anybody, and most likely not even a decent Jew, because you're just full of excuses. But if you at least try to be somebody, you may not be Rashi, you may not be the Maharsha, you may not even be their shoes, but you definitely will be something special in the eyes of Hashem. And also in the eyes of Am Yisrael today. So each guy, each man has the opportunity to do it. For the women that are here, the opportunity is not necessarily for you to become Dvorah or one of the Shoftim of Am Yisrael that were female. No, the opportunity is quite different. Gemara asks, why do women go to Gan Eden? Why do women go to Gan Eden? They don't learn Torah. They just learn the basics of what they need to do in order to become a decent mom. Why do they go to Gan Eden then? Says for sending their husband and their children to go learn Torah. For sending their husbands and their children to learn Torah. It's difficult to not have a husband. It's difficult to send your kids sometimes to a faraway yeshiva. It's difficult to constantly force the entire family to go learn, even though you don't necessarily always get the benefit and pleasure of Torah yourself. The Rogachover Rebbe once said, you know, I'm going to go to Gan Eden, but not because of my own learning. Because of my wife. Now the Rogachover Rebbe, he was such a gaon that when he met Einstein, after a 5-minute meeting, Einstein left the room and he says you can make 2 Einstein with his brain. Einstein that everybody, the Goyim and the Jews, all respect, Einstein said about the Rogatchover Rebbe, which was a Chabadnik, by the way, you can make 2 Einsteins from him. I said to the Rebbe, what'd you say to him? He goes, no, you want to talk about his shtuyot. So I showed him how much I know about his own shtuyot. If he thinks I'm smart, come learn Gemara with me. I'll show you what I know. Meaning, if you think I'm 2 Einsteins about your nonsense, come see me with Torah. One time they invited him to a wedding. He only went because there was another big Chacham at the wedding. But the Chacham spoke his language, meaning they spoke just in sources. They didn't say the whole Pasuk. They didn't say the page. They just spoke in sources. Page this, page this, page this, page this. But their battle was a fire. To such an extent, there was yelling and screaming. No, it's 67 and Sanhedrin. No, it's 47 200. And they spoke in a language no one else understood, but there was a lot of yelling. To such an extent, it went through the night. They started yelling at each other. They would knock on each other's doors at 3 o'clock in the morning. No, it's Brachot, page 7b. Half hour later, the other Chacham would come back to him. No, you're wrong. It's Sanhedrin, 3a. And this how it, to the point they made a Gzerah in the city. You're never allowed to invite both of them to the same wedding. Why? What are they going to be involved in the party? No, they learn Torah. That's what they do, learn Torah. But do these 2 in the same room, dangerous for society. To such an extent, his wisdom was so huge that when his mom died, he started crying, but she was older. And he said, Kvod Harav, why, you really were close to your mom? He says, you fool, you think I'm crying over my mom? I'm crying because I'm not allowed to learn Torah. Because he's Avel, he's in mourning, you're not allowed to learn Torah. I'm crying because I can't learn Torah. He got to such a point that after the 3rd day, after his mom died, 3rd day, he started learning Torah, which was a sin. But not a sin. Why not a sin? He says it became pikuach nefesh. If he didn't start learning Torah, he would die. He said himself, if I don't start learning Torah, I'm going to die. Alvai alenu. It's not that he wants it. He's learning Torah for what? He's learning for Hashem. He says, I have to learn Torah now, even though it's technically a sin in Torah, because it's not a sin. Why? Because pikuach nefesh. If I don't learn Torah, I'm going to die. Alvai alenu. But this very same Rogatchover Rebbe said something special. I heard from Rav Nisim again, Allah Shalom, something $1 million. He says, I'm only going to go to Gan Eden because of my wife. How is that possible? I just explained to you in several stories, this is a giant that couldn't live without Torah. Knew the entire Torah back and forth like we know the back of our hand. And you're telling me you're going to Gan Eden because of your wife? How could it be? He says, when I go up to Shamayim, they're going to tell me, no, what did you learn? I'm going to tell them what I learned. Say, you don't know how to learn. Get out of here. They're going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to tell me, I come up to Shamayim, they're going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. The biggest rabbi in the world says, I'm going to go up to Shamayim. In Shamayim, they have the whole truth. My version, in comparison to theirs, they're going to come to me and say, you don't even know how to learn. You don't even know how to learn. Not that you don't know anything. You don't even know how to learn, they're going to tell me, he says. How are we going to let you in Gan Eden? And then my wife's going to come. He says, yes, ma'am. Yes, Rabbanit. Gan Eden, please. For what? Married to Rogatchover Rebbe. She says, yeah, but he doesn't even know how to learn. He doesn't know how to learn, they're going to say to her. And my wife's going to say to them, it's my fault he doesn't know how to learn. Did I send him to Kollel every day? Did I send him to go learn every day? It's my fault he doesn't know how to learn. I send him to the yeshiva to go learn. It's not my fault he doesn't know how to learn. Gan Eden, please. Says, you're right. Tzadka mimenu. You're right. It's not your fault he doesn't know how to learn. And they're going to let her go to Gan Eden. But then she's going to start crying. And say, why? Oh, Rabbitzin, why are you crying? She goes, Gan Eden without my husband is a genom. Okay, they're going to bring me in because of my wife. Do you understand the chokhmah here? The giant of giants is saying, I don't even know how to learn. But I'm going to go to Gan Eden because my wife. That is the schut of a tzaddikah that sends a husband to go learn Torah. Whether a husband becomes a giant or not doesn't make a difference. You still get Gan Eden. You could save the entire family. You could save the entire nation. Just send your kids to go learn Torah. Rabotai Yekarim, we see here that people spend an enormous amount of time and money and resources honoring all these doctorates and psychiatrists and degrees and all types of nonsense in the world. Very rarely do we see anybody honoring Torah. And the reason why is because a lot of us have this problem that we want to be like half Jews. We want to be like half Jews. We want to be a Jew, but we want to be like a little bit like a goy too. We want to learn Torah, but also watch football after. We want to learn Torah, but watch movies also. We want to learn Torah and do mitzvot, but dress like the goyim do. So the Chafetz Chaim, Allah Shalom, said, and we'll finish with this. He says, everyone sees the difference between fake flowers and real flowers. Everyone knows, in many cases, the fake flowers are nicer. Many cases, the fake flowers are nicer. Why? Because sometimes the real flowers have like a black spot, or they're a little broken. They're not like pure, like as soon as they grow. If they're fresh, they're beautiful. But if they're not so fresh, and then the leaf is falling, it's crippled, it's a Baal Mum, it's not always like 100%. But the fake flower looks like it just bloomed. He says, but the problem is, the fake flower doesn't reproduce. He says, the Chafetz Chaim says, everyone likes the way the half a Jew looks like. The one that's like keeping Torah and mitzvot, but really is like a reform. Really is like a modern Orthodox. Really he has like watches TV half the day. He's like a fake flower. He looks more modern. The rabbi's more modern. He gives me high five. He gives me high five. He plays basketball with me. Problem is with the fake flower is it doesn't reproduce. The modern type of mentality, the secular type of mentality, it doesn't reproduce Jews. It reproduces goyim. If the father is going to play basketball, the son is going to worship basketball. If the father is going to talk about business on Shabbat, the son is not going to keep Shabbat at all. If the father is going to look at women that's not his wife, the son is going to marry a goya. Why? Nothing's ever enough. If you're going to be a fake flower, just so you know, you're not going to produce a real flower. You reproduce another fake flower. But the next one is much worse. And that's why the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, when someone came to him, he says, what's a rabbi? What's a Rebbe? The Lubavitcher Rebbe says to him, a Rebbe, it's a friend. It's a friend. A Rebbe is a friend. So the person that came from far away says, oh, Rebbe's a friend? I don't need a friend. I have a bunch of friends. I have a bunch of friends. So Lubavitcher Rebbe gave him an answer worth $1 million. He says, no, I think you're misunderstanding. If your friends knew everything you think about them, after they don't do business with you, after they don't give you a ride, after they annoy you, after all the things, if they all knew what you think about them all the time, would they still be your friends? He says, no. He says, exactly. The Rebbe knows you don't like him, and you hate him, and you don't want to listen to him, and you think this, and you think that, but he still stays your friend. Why? Because that's the Torah's obligation. If you want to pick a rabbi, pick the one that's going to tell you the truth, regardless of what your emotions are going to tell you to do. Regardless of what your Yetzirah is going to tell you to do, or what your mom and dad, and your friend, and your wife, and your husband, and your this one, and your that one, they're all telling you to go against the rabbi. Trust me when I tell you, the rabbi knows. If he's a good rabbi, he knows that everyone is telling you the opposite. But you have to know, if he's a real rabbi, he's not going to care at all. He's only going to care about giving you Torah. Because that's the only thing that's going to save us. Be'ezrat Hashem, we spread this shiur, we spread the chokhmah, but also the yeda. All of the knowledge that we get from this shiur, not to ourselves only, but also to all of our family, to all of Am Yisrael, Be'ezrat Hashem. Any questions? Beseder Rabotai, we have another shiur tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night, Be'ezrat Hashem, going to start a new Mishnah because we covered the vast majority of what I have on this one. There's some other stuff, but we can include it in the next one as well. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.